Okay, so we are starting. There, that was a record time, under a minute. Let's go.
I personally adore the graphic and artistic presentation of.
Shout out to Big Sexy 2003. They they create a bunch of their own music. You should check them out. They have Disobedience, which is a song I used here. It's supposedly supposed to be more like the Bomb Funk game, but they have Illusions, which is like sort of like supposed to be like a what if Sonic or Shadow had like a Sonic Riders theme. That one I've used in multiple videos. They have Deep Breathing. They have incredible songs, and they have a ton of them too. There, go check them out.
Morrowind, which I understand might be hard to believe, but for reference, some of my favorite video games of all time are Ocarina of Time, Fallout New Vegas, and the first generation of Pokemon. I'm no stranger to
Oh,
rough
there he
graphics, and
is.
I never installed additional graphical mod packs on top of OpenMW, since it already improves them to a degree I liked. However, if you are just such a darn stickler that a tree doesn't have
of 17,000 polygons,
then there are plenty of mod packs out there to improve it. On the art side of things, I'm also going to defend the overwhelming brown of the game, as I think the game is strikingly beautiful. As you go around the coast and starting town of Sedanin, you'll see swampy beaches, then a rocky inland around Balmora and Caldera, before the game goes to the red-brownish mountain everyone meets on, which makes geographical sense as Vardenfell is a volcanic island. But more than that, I feel does add a visual distinction to the general difficulty progression of the game. The more peaceful-looking areas are the easiest, with the brown reddish mountains containing the highest amount of blighted enemies and ash storms, which will make navigation by directions more difficult and disorienting. However, to contrast this is the sky, which outside of poor weather is a beautiful blue sky in the day and starry at night, which really highlights that Vardenfell is within the Elder Scrolls setting. While Daggerfall, Cyrodiil, and Skyrim tend to have more picturesque fantasy settings, Morrowind looks much closer to something like Fallout, and the bleak situation the region is in is highlighted beautifully by the geography of the region being somewhat abrasive.
I want to point out, it's not a bad thing that those games look the way they do. I think that makes those games better. Oblivion specifically has held up in large part thanks to the setting. Oblivion holds up for a lot of reasons, but if they had tried to go for like a Skyrim style in Oblivion's engine, it wouldn't have worked. The fact that Oblivion has painting backgrounds like mountains and hills and forests, it makes the game look beautiful. It's one of the reasons I like the game. I haven't played Daggerfall, but every shot out of it has like a bright blue sky, so I used it. And then Skyrim obviously is beautiful. Like, just because it's like more like, you know, fantasy, normal fantasy setting doesn't mean it's not beautiful. But I think the thing is that when you play this game, it feels distinct from all the other games when you're in areas like this.
When this almost antagonistic world is contrasted to the bright blue sky, it reminds you that there is a world worth living in this game, and that your struggle to help this region's people is worth it, which is something I felt multiple times once the storms would pass. On the weaker side are the ancestral tombs, which can be very bland if you have to complete them back to back. But even then, the caves usually make up for this, as makes sense considering the volcanic activity. The caves tend to always have spots of water for visual flair. And sometimes
I do also want to specify it's purely visual flair. There's barely any reason to ever go in the water in any cave. Unless the path is mandatory through the water, usually you just find like one potion or chest. LOL. I think they were meant to be like traps. Because in vanilla you're supposed to be moving at like, 30 miles an hour tops. And you're gonna get like trapped underwater, and then like a slaughterfish is gonna attack you and make you like drown. I think that's the point. But yeah, very rarely is there any point to jump into any water. And I didn't highlight this in the video, but the footage speaks for itself. The legacy lighting, you have to turn it on in OpenMW. But the legacy lighting does lead to really well lit caves like this, and the ancestral team specifically.
and if you have to complete them back to back.
Like I was talking about the version of this that you see in default OpenMW, where it's just like bright yellow, basically, like beige. But the lighting done in these areas is actually very impressive, and the fact that it was done this way, it makes it a lot more atmospheric than I mentioned. But like even then, it's still a little bland compared to like the cave and Red Mountain type settings.
But even then, the caves usually make up for this, as makes sense considering the volcanic activity. The caves tend to always have spots of water for visual flair. And sometimes, like with the Ursulaku caves, you'll get something really visually striking. The sound design is memed on a bit, and since training restoration manually while running around Vivek, and using ice magic since it's the best for the Dunmer population, has made my teeth hurt, I do think in a vein similar to Oblivion's silly dialogue that the game's audio-visual presentation can at times be downright hilarious.
You're beat.
I adore goofy games, so the moment-to-moment gameplay being silly is something I appreciate. And it's honestly so impressive that the amazing skyboxes and evil, scary Dwemer ruins coincide with RuneScape character models and Windows 7 sound effects, and it doesn't feel very wrong.
Amazing transition. So yeah, I don't have much to disagree with there. The only thing I should have emphasized is that you should turn on legacy lighting if you use OpenMW. Now, that was graphics, so I'm very aware OpenMW improves things to a substantial degree.
Them if you miss, and have a very low chance if they hit. And even if you do hit, they don't do standout damage. As for lesser throwing...
Yeah, look at this shit. Fucking 4x3, first of all. So on any modded monitor, you're just wasting a ton of screen space. Map is in a worse spot. Fuck, is it down here? That's what this is. Swag came back for the first time in like a year, and NC Hammer reacted to him, and they reacted to him. But yeah, look at this. This is default Morrowind. This is true default Morrowind. This was captured from, I believe, an Xbox 360. Using the Xbox Live to emulate Morrowind. And you can see there's no view distance. The graphics are even worse, like the texture packs on every individual item. The fog, you can already see it just in this one shot. And the 4x3 does not help with the small issue. Not to mention the super weird UI to like fit onto the smaller ratio. I'm aware that OpenMW looks a lot better than vanilla, so me praising it that way might sound like I'm just hyping it up, but like, no, I saw it back here. Yeah, look at this. This still, like, when you take into account the art setting, the way that they colored the clouds in the sky and contrasted it with the rocks and the water, it's still really striking.
Since we're tasked with journeying into Molag Amur, if only there were...
Yeah, look at this shot. The lighting is still really impressive, even in pure vanilla. No OpenMW. Shout out to Patrician TV. He made a better video than I will ever make. I don't know if I'll ever make a 5-hour video on anything. I hate editing way too much to ever do that, I think.
Something that should be trivial, but sadly is actually worth going over. In Morrowind, you move fucking slow. Like, to such an insane degree, I don't think people actually understand. To get the point across, the character I have on screen is a Bosmer.
Yo, shout out to my bald bitches. I was using a bald head mod, so I made every default character I use for the demonstration bald.
Who naturally starts at 50 speed, who took speed as a specialized attribute, tagged at...
That wasn't me, by the way. Something in my room cracks like every 30 minutes because I turn the heat off in my house. I don't know what it is, but that's not me.
Athletics as a major skill, which factors into the equation, and took the steed for 25-point bonus to speed, making this the fastest start possible. Here's an orc who's...
Now, that's technically incorrect. I use the OpenMW racial speed variation fix. So that was true for my setup. However, in true vanilla, I believe that you want to choose, I think, an orc, which ironically I use for the slowest because of the way the speed variation fix works. However, the point is still the speed difference is drastic, and this demonstration doesn't change that. The only thing is that this character,
athletics as a major skill,
you would not be moving that quickly if you had racial speed variation turned off. So my demonstration is actually being more generous to the game than disingenuous.
Which factors into the equation, and took the steed for 25-point bonus to speed, making this the fastest start possible. Here's an orc who starts with 30 speed that didn't tag speed or athletics or take the steed sign. What's even crazier is that what I just showed you was running, and that the game actually has a walking feature.
Alright, we get it. We get it.
Why?
That was very intentionally meant to be very annoying. Because I want to get the point across how fucking annoying this is. It was meant to be a little bit of a filter. So that people who sat through that knew what they were getting into. So, I really do not... And I spend the next, 5 minutes trying to bash people who defend the movement speed. Yeah, fuck this shit. It's actually just, I enjoy wasting my time. And it's that's cool. For you. But, not everyone likes wasting their time in that way.
Because running, the faster of the two modes, consumes fatigue. Fatigue in this game factors into RNG. And in this game, almost literally every single aspect of the game is determined by RNG. Meaning spending less time walking actively hurts your ability to play the game. Or in other words,
your shit.
Moving faster makes the game worse. There's a few justifications for this, which I want to shut down here. It's realistic. Yes, but that doesn't mean it's fun. Food is in the game, why don't you have to eat?
I intentionally decided not to cut to examples here because I really wanted to keep this on screen to make this as grating and annoying as possible.
Why can you levitate so high while still breathing if you can drown? Why don't you get infected when hit by rusty weapons if you can catch diseases from monsters? If you can jump to Solstheim, why can't you jump to Skyrim or Blacklight?
The other DLC area because it's notably locked off from Skybox and you can't levitate there.
Why does Valkyria not arrest you after you steal her diamonds if you shop within a day of stealing them, but come back months later with a diamond and she enters combat? Because games are meant to be fun. Or maybe Morrowind isn't supposed to be fun? If you think that's the case, then sure.
I go over this much later in the video, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone hears that and thinks that that's a completely, a shutdown kind of thing. Which I guess it is for the context of speed. But the idea of games not supposed to being fun is actually very interesting to me, and it's genuinely possible. You think of movies, right? If you think games are art, then you have to think it's possible because there are movies that are not meant to be fun. There are television shows that aren't meant to be fun. There are books that aren't meant to be fun. There are forms of art that serve multiple purposes other than entertainment. Video games sort of by necessity have to serve as entertainment due to the fact that they're commercialized and sold in such a way as to make money. And anything that is entertaining will make more money than anything that isn't, unless it is an exception, maybe the Bible. And even then that's split. A lot of people who are Christians enjoy the Bible as a form of entertainment while still viewing it as a religious item, There's a lot of arguments to be made that Morrowind straddles the line of a game that is supposed to not be fun. And a lot of people, I feel, when they hear that would probably think that I'm just trying to be shit on the game. But I actually think there is an interesting future where games, experiment with that. Try to do things other than just be fun. However, in the context of viewing Morrowind as a game that's supposed to be fun, yeah, this shit isn't fun. Now, personally, I would love if all those things were in the game, but it's just that, and I do, it's the Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild thing. It's realism over being realistic, right? It's giving you the feeling that what you're doing is an actual journey, that you're having to make considerations and decisions. That's something that Morrowind excels at, because at the early game, when you think, okay, I need to go to Mulligamar, the Patrician TV Mage's Guild quest, right? I need to get to Mulligamar to get the guild dues, so should I go there through, should I try to go there through levitating over the mountains? Should I try to get there through walking through the foyer? Should I approach it from Caldera and go further along roads, or should I go through, should I go through Balmora and take a little bit of a longer... I actually don't know which way is longer, but you know what I mean. You view things like that, and that's very engaging. I think that's very good. Like I talk on later. But the point of a game being fun, I think Morrowind is just kind of shitty enough in vanilla to create that discussion. And I talk on it later. If Morrowind is supposed to be one of those not really fun games, then I think the completely vanilla experience would be like magical in that respect. If you think about it, Morrowind and the Bible are kind of similar. It's the hero's journey. I don't know if Jesus had a hero's journey. I haven't read the Bible.
You can restore fatigue with potions or magic.
Annoying ass delivery. I should have re-recorded that one.
Morrowind already makes the world difficult enough for pure warriors and thieves that adding even more sway to the power of magic would just expose how dog water the game would be without magic.
Yes, so at this point I have re-enabled fatigue recovery, as in your fatigue drains when you run. But the reason is because I literally 100% of the time hybridize my builds to mages. If I ever, and I mean ever, tried to do a run where I was just carrying armor and weapons and hitting things, the fatigue system would fucking suck. And it does. I think managing it as a mage is okay because you can craft your potions and use restoration magic, but it does force the game to hybridize to magic. Maybe you can make an argument that thieves have the personality skills to get better prices on potions, so it makes it more of like, well, in that respect, it's more for thievery, but for a pure warrior who this would have the biggest impact on, since it would affect your ability to evade and hit things, the system doesn't feel good.
You end up with so much fatigue that it doesn't matter anyways. This is one of the fairer points, but honestly this promotes the insanely stunted early game, which I dislike very heavily. As a gamer, I would prefer the difficulty to either gradually increase
I was taking
or
a drink.
evenly, which this game does completely backwards. The early game is a time where not only is the world hazardous because of the enemies, but add on top of that low hit chance from your skills, since your first Morrowind build will probably suck, and then low fatigue, all because you wanted less of your time wasted walking. If fatigue management was a whole game concern, I could understand this point more. But by level 15 or 20, even on my first run, I could basically ignore it, which was incredibly suboptimally built. The boots of blinding speed.
Okay, so this is a bunch of mumbo jumbo, but what this comes out to is basically when you have 100 endurance, you regenerate 4 fatigue per second, no matter what you're doing. And running costs 5 and swimming costs 7. So, essentially, at 100 endurance, you just need 1 point of fatigue regeneration. You can get that through the Ring of Azura, you can get that through a bunch of DLC items, constant effects. You can make a 1-second spell that lasts a long time. There are ways to get around this. And if you use the Corpus exploit, where you get 1 extra point of strength and endurance per level that you have, or per a day that you have Corpus, which I always do, you'll end up at a point where you literally regenerate more fatigue than you can drain running. So even if you just play the game, you'll likely end up at a point where you can just naturally counteract this. However, the point is that it's something that just kind of completely disappears from the game. And it's not something like, okay, when you learn that endurance affects your health, a normal person will go, oh, I'd better look into endurance. So you raise endurance, which naturally gets you your fatigue, and then all your stats are increasing at the same time. So you have more total fatigue, and you start needing less hits to kill things, so you use less fatigue. So naturally, your character will just get to the point to where it's irrelevant, even if you don't have 100 endurance. So you can make 2 arguments about this. You can say, well, that's either progression, your character just completely eventually eliminates the need to do that, or you take what I said here and you go, well, that's kind of shit, because then it just makes the already tedious and frustrating part of the game worse. And it doesn't make the end game any harder. And considering the end game is like one of the easiest games of all time, I think that it needs to be more of a long-term concern. You would have to be willfully playing bad to not get the fatigue concern dressed with by like 15. I like level 15. You would have to be like intentionally investing in a purely like speed, intelligence, personality, and luck only, and not using the Corpus exploit. Which means that you would have to complete the Corpus quest in like a day. Without any sidetracking, which if it's your first time, you're gonna get distracted. So like, yeah, I don't think the fatigue thing works, but I would love to see it sort of maybe expounded upon. I honestly think if power attacks just took more fatigue, the system would be much better. Because as it is now, even at the start of the game, power attacks don't hardly drain your fatigue at all. And then, so that would mean that into the mid-game it would still be a concern, especially if you're getting attacked and losing fatigue, but... Yeah, maybe also have, like, wizards actually use shit like drain fatigue instead of burden every single fucking battle. But, yeah. I was kind of wrong here, but still for the purpose of this title, no, I was not wrong.
Speed exists. So do Argonians and Khajiit who can't wear those boots.
True.
Even for the human races, a new player doesn't know how to find them or circumnavigate the blinding effect. And due to the boot's low light armor nature, it nerfs all builds, and constantly repairing the 50 HP boots is a hassle if you turn the difficulty up, or if you enter a DLC area. In short,
I finally did the Solstheim main quest, and goddamn, every time I fought a werewolf, my boots broke. It was so goddamn annoying. But I think this is a rare case where I was a little bit wrong on that specific point. I think the fact that the boots break is actually very engaging in a certain way, because it creates a scenario where you can use that speed to run away from an enemy, but if they break your boots, you're just kind of fucked. You can't repair items in the middle of battle, so if you rely on that speed the boots give you to be able to escape an enemy, it's a little engaging to have your boots break and then like be forced to deal with it. But it does mostly just come into tedium when you have like 100 acrobatics and you just jump over everything anyways, to then have to just constantly repair the boots. But I do think that it has merit in the early and mid game. So, bit of a Nick is an L there.
speed either should have been faster by default or not drain fatigue. There isn't even the argument that the game couldn't handle high speed. I've used a character that almost reached 500 speed, and that character still received damage in combat and didn't crash the game instantly. Now,
okay, true, but that's also an open MW. I'm pretty sure using speeds past 100 on pure vanilla is very unstable. And even then, even on open MW, someone in chat told me that going past 500 is not a good idea. So I'm assuming this was just more open MW and I just didn't take the time to consider that, so bit of an L on my part again. That's 2.
now that movement is out of the way, we should go over combat. When you swing a melee weapon, whether it be a blade, axe, blunt weapon, fist, bow and arrow, or thrown weapon, the game runs a calculation based off your agility, luck, weapon skill, and effects like attack to determine whether you hit the enemy. Hit chance. I'll just say bluntly that I hate it, but that I do sadly understand that Morrowind would collapse if you took it out. There are effectively 3 progressions baked into Morrowind: damage, hit chance, and equipment. A new character can min-max their character to have good strength from the get-go, meaning that with Morrowind's open world and fixed item placement philosophy, a level 1 Nord could have 60 strength and Scourge, a Daedric mace, which would be an end-game character. To counterbalance this, that Nord would likely have a relatively low hit chance.
By the way, fucking Scourge, that is not a normal Daedric model. That thing looks fucking sick. I love how it looks. The like gold plating in it. I need to do a build where I use Scourge from level 1.
Meaning they still couldn't reliably win against enemies like Dremora or Ordinators. If hit chance were removed, the entire game would
fucking no more heroes.
It would just turn into...
The sound mixing is a little bad, but I want to stress, I had this shit mixed perfectly in the editor. For some reason, when I export it and upload it to YouTube, the sound gets closer. The background music is not supposed to be as loud as it is. It sounds fine now, but if you turn it up to hear me better, you hear the music a lot. And that was not on me. Something happened in the exporting process.
The Skyrim inside of the world space of Vardenfell. The fixed item placement and enemies are too integral to what makes Morrowind, so I think hit chance is a bitter pill you have to swallow if you want to play this game.
A bitter pill, but a pill nonetheless. Or a bitter cup that we have to drink from. I was thinking about putting so many puns there, but I was like, I want to say this part straight. But yeah, absolutely. Look, I suggested an alternative to the way that RNG could work, and I think that to an extent Skyrim is interesting at certain points in its progression, but there's no way to get over hitting an enemy, connecting the model, and nothing. Right? maybe, and I went over this on another stream. Maybe it's something where it's up to the individual to be able to take a bunch of bullshit for it, but I just can't stand it.
On the other side of combat RNG is magic cast chance, which is very similar in using a stat check to determine whether or not you cast a spell. The reason I think people harp on this less is for a few reasons. First being that you can see the chance to cast, which makes it feel more
Spit your
fair. When
shit!
I know the chance cast is 3%, I get less mad when it fails. Like, yeah, that's my fault for even trying. When I have 50 long blade, using the bound longsword that fortifies my chance to hit, and I still miss, it feels terrible because I don't have a number to check and see if I got the 4% chance to miss, or if I'm flipping a coin at 50% and it's more fair that I didn't hit. Second, spells have out-of-combat utility. To paraphrase Waffle Tabernacle, failing a hit and roll in combat doesn't mean I'm going to stop trying to fight and meditate or something. It just means I'm going to die. With spells, however,
I love that
failing
joke
after
so
can
goddamn
have lesser
much.
repercussions, so you can just rest to get your magic back or go do something
No, I put
else.
it at the end. Never
As an
mind.
example, I usually carry lockpicks until I have a 100% chance to cast an open 50 spell, which makes the skill progression convenient and powerful while the low RNG rolls don't necessarily keep me from solving most locks with an alternate method. Really?
A little quick tip. This is not like analysis related, but if you're using Fortify skill from the DLC as quickly as possible, Fortify lockpick is more efficient than open. Granted, that's still restoration, not lockpick, but that's interesting. Creating a 100 lockpick spell is more efficient cost-wise than like for 5 seconds than creating an open 100 magnitude. And I still think an apprentice lockpick can succeed in any role if you have that much lockpick.
The only area low cast chance screws you over is teleportation. Since even mysticism talented races majoring in it at class creation start with less than 100% chance to cast.
I also adore that when I didn't know what the fuck to put in for the footage, because I was like, yeah, this is gonna be picking locks. I already do that later, so I just put in jump footage because it never gets old. I've done the math. I've played this game for about 200 to 300 hours in the past month or so, and like I'm still not tired of jumping.
Which can slow you down while traversing areas like Vivek. 80% sounds fine unless you play Pokemon and you understand how important 100% really is. 3. If a spell is cast successfully, the effect is guaranteed. They could have very easily added a hit chance after cast chance for mages, but they didn't, and I'm so grateful for that.
Can you fucking imagine? You fucking roll for your fireball, and then the fireball hits the target and rolls and misses. You imagine how much people would fucking hate magic in this game? Also, Chooks is fucking hilarious. I love watching her tweak when she plays Pokemon.
Finally, we have out-of-combat RNG. Things like enchanting items, creating potions, repairing gear, picking locks, smooth-talking NPCs, haggling, picking pockets, and sneaking are all determined by RNG rolls. While the RNG rolls in combat are necessary to prevent rushing the best gears, and RNG on spells is very clearly defined and easy enough to understand and improve, I will not try to defend this as it's just mostly tedious. While I can understand your Magicable of a set number of RNG rolls you can use before you run out, having alchemy ingredients and sorting through the clunky potion-making UI to finally find 2 ingredients before mixing them together, just to see all 5 of the potions fail, just does not feel good ever. Well,
quick point. So it's not supposed to feel good, obviously. That's supposed to feel bad, because you don't have the skill to do it yet, so you're supposed to fail. But on the alternative, it's like, man, I just don't know, man. Just make it that you make fucking piss-ass weak, worthless potions. That's the other thing, is that the failure to do something prevents you from gaining experience in the skill, which I think is ultimately the much bigger issue. You gain variable experience in every skill depending on what you're doing in the skill. For spells, I think it's a flat 5 skill gain, no matter what magnitude it is, which is why you make a magnitude 1 intensity spell and spam it. For potions, it depends on whether you're eating an ingredient or successfully creating a potion. For enchanting, it's using an item, recharging an item, creating an item. All your skills have very variable values out of 100 that you need to gain experience in for each skill level up. So, personally, every skill in the game levels too slowly. Unless you choose combat as a specialty and a melee weapon, in which case it levels just right. Everything else levels too slowly. Pretty much. to actually reach 100. And I did like a 40, 50 hour 100% playthrough where I did like, I became the leader of pretty much every guild. I did most of the Daedric quests. I did both DLCs and the main story, and I still just had a bunch of skills that were never going to be 100 if I hadn't trained them. Everything levels too slowly, so just make everything level a little bit faster and make it so that failing... Just make it so that failing gives you, like, 1 out of 100 experience. Like, I feel like that would help the early game not feel as, like, slow, while it still wouldn't... It wouldn't have any impact on the later game. Because it wouldn't... You know, you wouldn't be gaining experience for failing then, you'd just be getting the static experience then. But I feel like if it... I get that there's also the idea that, like, well, then you would just be encouraged to just fail stuff, but, like, if you're still willing to click, like, 100 restoration spells for 2 levels, that's still pretty fair, in my opinion, even if you're failing some of them. This is why the game puts emphasis on trading. It's true. It also introduces its own dilemma that you can pretty much go from, like, a level 1 character to being, a god by just training with, like, 40 or 50,000 gold. Which creates its own issues.
Well, Oblivion does have some degree of skill gating, as some spells need a skill check to cast or enchanted gear can't be repaired until 50. The frustratingly low chance to perform actions below skill level 20 or so ends up somehow...
You guys like Morrowind, you can read when I put stuff on the screen.
...feeling worse than just being told to get to 25 before you do it. Now, I tried as hard as I could to be very apologetic to RNG, but I do honestly hate it.
Yeah, I could have just sat there and been like, this shit's bullshit. It's stupid. I hate it. But no, I was like, no, it's necessary for the gear because it balances the game. You know, I was trying to be all like, oh, it's actually why it's there and it works. But yeah.
Most people who complain just say Oblivion and Skyrim are fine, but in combat in those games in general are pretty bad, and honestly worse than Morrowind overall.
Yeah, the feedback in Morrowind is actually pretty okay once you get really strong. Like, when you knock someone to the ground in Morrowind, it feels like you fucking are about to, like, start curb stomping them. Whereas in the other games, it doesn't feel as good. The initial feedback feels better in the other 2 games. Because no matter what level you are, you can connect your model. So you're always hitting opponents and feeling the little thud. And, you know, hearing like an ugh, you know, at every level. So the initial feedback is good, but Morrowind's feedback is better at a high level. Because, like, when you power attack someone and they just go, like, ah, and fall to their hands and knees, and you're literally standing over them like an executioner, it makes you feel so fucking swole. Which is something I should have emphasized better. The reason people don't like the feedback in Morrowind is because of the early game, where all the feedback is just missing.
My suggestion to fix RNG in the sequel to Morrowind we never got would be bonus RNG, where there is a bare minimum progress to be had with the RNG acting as a reward for investment on top of a baseline progression, rather than the necessity for even the bare minimum. Take weapon skills, which already have variable damages based on the type of attack performed. With an RNG...
I should have gone over the attack types, but it's honestly not really worth going over, because you either use it or you turn on best attack. The footage of me getting my ass beat by Alma Alexia's hands is so fucking funny. Yeah, this is like napkin math. Obviously, you wouldn't use this. You would take this further. But, like, you use, like, the lowest number as, like, the bare minimum roll on a weapon, and then you use RNG to determine if you add the other types of attack damage to it. Obviously, this wouldn't make any fucking sense with the attack type system, and, obviously that. So I just think that weapons in general should just have their default attack type. There's a certain amount of value to it, like, as it is now. Like, broadswords, for instance, have their value. Because in a panic, you can get your max damage out with any attack type. But then you also concede damage in general, because it's always going to be lower. But in general, even if it's not your ideal attack type, just standing there and swinging gets you through the entire game. Like, the only thing that you can't do that with is, like, the DLC. You have to actually think a little bit in there, but, like, yeah, it's not that bad. The fire enchantment RNG range, so, like, Goldbrand is, like, 10 to 30, so, like, maybe at a high enough enchanting skill, you always hit 30. That's an idea I like. That, I should have put that in the video more. There are ranges on a tons of magic spells, like, restore 1 to 20 points. Maybe that could also be the way your RNG works, is all spells have ranges, and your RNG just gets you consistently higher rolls. So, like, at Restoration 50, Hearth Heal, which is, like, the starter spell, you would always get 20. That would be another interesting way to do this. There's so many ways to go with this, other than just, oh, your skill isn't high enough, you missed.
You roll, it could allow your attack to either do baseline damage, add 2 of the damage numbers, or all 3, which would end up making most weapons devastating in the current game balance. With the RNG ending up in a place, and with 100 and...
Yeah, really awkward cut, because I said the wrong thing. And by the way, I'm stupid. Like, I'm dumb. Someone that's way smarter than me could come up with a way better RNG system than Vanilla Morrowind or this. I would be excited to play a Morrowind sequel that had, like, an improved RNG thing by someone way better than me.
In skill, agility, and luck, you're more likely to roll double, and with fortification past 100, you could end up in cases where you're likely to score triples, but not guaranteed, while preserving the early game balance, since you could have relatively low strength. Since you end up as a god anyways, having the enemies operate on this system would mean high-level enemies would high roll and obliterate you at low levels, while at higher levels you would retain the godhood Morrowind allows.
Exactly like Vanilla, but with a much better initial start feeling. Because you wouldn't be constantly going, swing, miss. But it would still mean you couldn't go to high-level areas at the start. It would still mean there'd be progression. It just would mean that the initial feedback of doesn't exist.
For things like spells, the RNG could be cost. The stated cost is the bare minimum. But with improved skills, there could be a chance to reduce the cost by half or even a third, meaning you could build a battle plan to use a certain amount of ranged magic before you switch to touch spells, but because of your cool RNG roll, you could get lucky and spam target spells for longer, possibly eliminating the melee half of the fight, with the chances of an encounter like this at level 1 being really, really low to maintain the progression. Now, I'm not saying I can make a better game than Bethesda, that's not the intention of this, but people act like there's no alternative to what Morrowind's RNG is, while that's just not true.
It might be a preference thing. Some people might like cock and ball torture, so they like the early game where they miss all the time. That gets into the whole, like, should the game be miserable thing, and it's like, that just might be person per person. I can't tell someone else not to like the early game where you swing and miss, but I don't. And I think that, literally, that is a very unanimous opinion that most people who try to get into this game do not like that. And we are talking about a possible sequel here, because I don't think Oblivion is really a sequel to Morrowind. I think Oblivion is using the Elder Scrolls IP for what it's doing. And I think Oblivion's a good game, but I don't think it's a sequel to Morrowind.
In a true sequel to Morrowind, there could have been an alternate system to the RNG like this, that makes it so that the RNG gives you a reward for advancing in skill. Everyone says hitting consistently is a reward, but I firmly disagree. When I streamed my first experiences in Morrowind, and I realized I could consistently hit things after like 10 or so hours, I didn't feel stronger. I felt like, oh, finally combat isn't as annoying.
Oh, fucking finally, the door.
Something I really want to stress, that getting out of that hole you started in isn't...
Dude, people hate Ego Raptor for his reviews. But I gotta say, I don't think anyone in those comment sections will ever make a video as entertaining as the Ocarina of Time video.
Fun or rewarding. It's a barrier to entry. Most other skills are rather simple to explain. The haggling system is like Oblivion's, but with RNG. Picking locks means attaching a pick or a probe like a dagger and attacking the lock.
It's so fucking funny. It's like, Groxy lock me bash. This is fucking hilarious.
Really, only speechcraft and enchanting need to be delved into. Speechcraft has admiration, which seems to be dependent on the skill, personality, and luck. Threaten, which is dependent on your level. Taunt, which isn't worth explaining since it barely works.
This is one of the comments that I read. A stream regular commented this. I understand how it works. Taunt works on a bell curve. So, let's say that you have a range of about 40 to 60 in speechcraft disposition. That's when taunt is the most effective. So, the trick of taunt is if you have super high personality, you start off with a taunt to lower it. Then you taunt again so it's successful. Then you taunt until it's no longer successful. Then you bribe or admire them back up to where it is successful. Your luck and speechcraft skill will determine how quickly the taunt will instigate them, as well as factors like their fight. Certain characters have higher fight statistics, which makes them easier to taunt. Warriors are easier to taunt because they think they can just beat your ass. Yeah, it makes sense. It's actually very fascinating, but the problem is the effort it takes to get this system to work it completely falls apart compared to bribing and frenzy. That's my main takeaway here, and that's what I say. So yeah, I understand how it works, and I think the concept is very cool, but it's one of those cases, like I go over in the magic section, where magic is so powerful that it invalidates a lot of other playstyles for like practicality. Taunt would be much cooler if you're trying to roleplay as someone that doesn't want to touch spells at all. Then taunt would have its practicality. But that's something I go over in the magic section, is that magic in general just hybridizes a build to be everything. It's really weird. I don't think it's necessarily bad, but it does make the other distinct playstyles feel worse.
And bribing like Oblivion in 10, 100, and 1,000 gold increments. By the time you have the RNG numbers to roll an admiration, you either have the gold to bribe or spells to bypass the check anyways. I could not provoke one NPC in over 100 plus hours of playing with a taunt, even at super high personality and speechcraft skills. Bribing 10 gold is supposed to be the most cost efficient way, but I have had multiple instances where just paying
Mournhold, City of Light, City of Magic
got a result that over a dozen 10 gold bribes didn't. And 100 was consistent enough I never needed the 1,000 option. Threat.
Yeah, you just spam 1,000 at the end game when you have like 1,000,000 gold and you're never going to spend it on anything. You just do it to speed it up.
And it's interesting since it depends on your level, meaning at level 30 and beyond I never saw this option fail. Meaning the entire system kind of falls apart at feeling like a speech system. But given that it's a common occurrence in quests, it does feel rewarding to threaten someone for an answer to show how strong your character has gotten. Or skip performing an errand by slipping the guy 100 gold, exposing how shallow these nationalist Dunmer really are.
Yeah. I honestly think the speechcraft system would be better if you remove the option to bribe. Or make the option to bribe limited to 100 or 1,000. Honestly, the Oblivion system is a lot better for bribing, in my opinion, because the prices are crazy to get to like not even that high of disposition. Like you can spend multiple hundreds of gold bribing people in Oblivion and only end up at like 70 or 80 disposition. I don't think there's as many checks in Morrowind that you actually need past 70 or so, but I think that would be kind of better. But honestly, as it is, I think just removing bribing would make it better in general. You would actually then need to actually invest in a speechcraft, and your initial personality would play more of a role. But I don't know on this one, honestly. Bribing speeds up the game for sure, but speechcraft would have more of a function if... Honestly, or maybe just make it so that speechcraft is entirely reliant on bribing, too. Because I think bribing is influenced by mercantile, which is kind of weird. It makes sense, but it pulls further away from the speechcraft skill. And like what I'm saying here by it doesn't work as a system is like you don't feel like you're engaging with it on an NPC per basis. You're just bribing, and then when you can, you start intimidating. Also, your admiration is influenced by your reputation, which I actually think is super cool, but that's not conveyed very well. So you would just think that like, oh, I can't admire anyone because of my speechcraft skill. But once you have enough reputation to like do the Vivek thing, you can probably just admire anyone and it succeed. As long as your speechcraft is above like 20 or so. Which I think is super cool, but the game doesn't really convey that very well.
Enchanting is by far the most drastic change in this game compared to the later games. It is better and worse for it. All items can be given spell enchantments, which can be used as spells. These have a charge cost, and all items hold charges based on the soul used to enchant. Meaning you can make gloves with a fortify hand-to-hand effect, a cuirass that regenerates health, boots that let you jump higher, and weapons that conjure better weapons in a pinch. If you're the type of player who loves managing temporary effects, then the enchanting system is for you and allows for some of the most powerful characters in the game. However, I don't like temporary effects, so I prefer constant enchantments, which you will likely not be putting into your gear, since only a few types of armor have the ability to hold these magnitudes of enchantment at all, and only golden saints can be reliably used to achieve this. With tons of meta knowledge, you might have some decent enchantments, but it leads to every character wearing their disco robes and bug helms.
I've toned down on this. I've started being strict to only use armor's inherent enchant values. So like I used to put like water breathing on like boots and stuff like that, like water walking on boots, because it's very low value, but Since I've realized how powerful constant effects are, I make sure to only put constant effects on things that can actually hold them. Pretty much armor is useful if you want to put Night Eye on your gear. Night Eye is 1 point enchant value, so you can put it on anything. But armor is meant for defense. The fact that some armors can hold constant effects is more like, hey, that's kind of nice. You know, you can put like telekinesis on your ebony cuirass, but yeah, you're not putting like restore stuff on your armor, which I think it's good. It's a good balance. But yeah, those enchantments I had are better than you'll ever get. The Telvanni Bug Helm can only hold 100 enchant value. That's like the highest, I think, for armor outside of the Daedric Shield.
For their enchant values.
The silhouette looks like the motherfucker's wearing Jinko jeans.
And even
that's Penny and Alfred of Snapcube. I think they're big enough that I don't have to like source them. I think I can just put them in there like the Anthony Fantano meme. That part made me laugh every time I went over it editing.
then you just flat out cannot replicate the best artifacts found in game anyways. Meaning enchanting will most likely end up applying to weapons.
That creates a really interesting dilemma. So I installed an enchant value multiplier mod so that when I wear like this robe, I can enchant it like it's an exquisite because I like how it looks. So at that rate, why not just enchant something else to have the speed of the boots of blinding speed? But I think the idea is supposed to be that because of the fact all the artifacts have their different armor types. For instance, the boots are light armor, ebony mail's medium armor, and the Fist of Randagolf are heavy armor. Even though pretty much every character wants those artifacts, it's supposed to like sort of introduce the idea that you need to train multiple armor skills to get the most use out of the best items. Either that or deal with the fact that one of your powerful enchantments is actively detrimenting your build. I felt this the least when I used heavy armor, since I had the Fist of Randagolf, Wraithguard, and a Daedric Tower Shield for the enchant anyways, but it does create an interesting dilemma if you want to use like medium armor or light armor, or especially medium armor or unarmored, that you need to use really powerful armor for enchantments that you can't replicate. But it does feel a little weird, because sometimes I just want to look at my character and be swagged out in a certain way, and then you always have to wear those damn Fists of Randagolf.
Or cast on strike functions like it does in other games, with two key distinctions. Enchanted items can be repaired by repair hammers from level 5 armorer skill, unlike Oblivion, and that enchanted items recharge over time, meaning spamming Azura Star isn't a necessity the instant you can temper enchanted items, unlike Skyrim. Meaning boosting enchant for literally only the purpose of getting more use out of a sword is completely viable. The only downside to enchanting is that, done outside of the vendor, it caps out an 80% chance to create the item. Meaning if you try to put a cool effect on that super rare Daedric sword in Vivek's Soul and fail, I mean, screw you, they're gone. Using vendors then is expensive, and the more powerful enchantments I could make cost upwards of 140,000 gold. Oh.
If you have a low mercantile skill and you're not using Fortify Mercantile as a spell, putting a full value restore health effect on a Daedric Tower Shield cost, I think, 400,000 gold. I had over 100,000 gold, and by doing enchantments, I dropped to like 300k. Oh, sorry, over 1 million gold and dropped to 300k.
Overall, it forces you to accept temporary effects or play without enchantments until the very, very late game. Which is actually very cool, since timing temporary effects in battle is an IRL skill, and the constant effects can warp your character just as much, if not more, than the extra effect perk in Skyrim.
Someone on stream, when I was doing my Blood Moon playthrough, told me to go get the Mantle of Woe, and that decision changed how I view constant effects, because the Mantle of Woe essentially makes your Magicka pool infinite for like someone that isn't a dedicated mage. And then from there, you can use constant effects to counteract the sun damage in the sun. Once you realize that, you're like, yeah, fuck, constant effects really do need to be delayed as long as possible, because they will warp your character. It's insane.
Armor is one of the only skills that isn't random and is more heavily determined by skill than other games.
I'm surprised there's no RNG in armor. I feel like maybe your armor class should have a set evasion bonus, and that could be detected by RNG, but yeah, even then, I don't know. That would be additional on top of baseline armor, though. So that would be more like sequel territory, but it's bizarre to me. Armor is the only thing in the game that doesn't have RNG.
meaning someone specialized in medium armor would get more use out of
Nick is a neat reacts to Nick is a neat reacting to Nick is a neat. Yeah, me in a year coming back, like, listen to this fucking asshole.
bone mold, the worst medium armor in the game, than the Dark Brotherhood armor, the second best light armor in the game.
That's what we like to
Nothing
see!
Amazing. Incredible. Feeling good. On top of this comes more slots to put armor on, like pauldrons, greaves, and the ability to wear clothing under your armor and robes over it. While this destroys the game balance Unarmored offers by making it not only the weakest but also the lowest enchant value, it feels so good to have clothes on under your armor and stack all of the effects.
It does. However, I was wrong here. Rare Nick is a neat L. The point of Unarmored is that it's a early game tag. It kind of introduces the dilemma of, like, well, why do certain skills exist if they're only useful at certain portions of the game? Which, like, that's its own discussion. But the point of Unarmored is purely just if you're a mage early on before you have any strength to run around with no weight. I will say that Unarmored is like a meme on max difficulty. It just doesn't work, but yeah, on normal difficulty, a mage can tag Unarmored and be fine, which I think is cool. You'll never be as tanky as the other builds, but you don't need to be. You're supposed to be running around and jumping and levitating and stuff. But yeah, the fact is also, you just don't get as much enchant value out of armor. So if you're not cheating like I was, with all those constant effects that wouldn't fit on those pieces, then it wouldn't matter. You'd get like Night Eye on that armor, if anything, so it doesn't matter. And if you're a dedicated mage, you can just cast Night Eye spells, so yeah, I was wrong. But I do think the fact that you're not completely helpless naked is cool, because I always love taking off my helmet on builds, especially if I make my character bald. I like seeing their bald head, so I like the fact that you can still have a little bit of armor from that bonus. Or, like, before you get a good shield, because all the shields are ugly, you get unarmored bonus if you don't have a shield on. There's a bunch of good effects for this.
Especially considering that clothing has higher enchant values than armor, meaning you can choose armor mainly for protection and clothing for boosts. Attributes function like they do in Oblivion by affecting everything you do in some way, and God, with the special system in New Vegas, I gotta say, I just love attributes. Fuck the color juice from Skyrim. All my homies hate the juice.
I want to use that helmet so bad. I want to make a samurai that uses that helmet and wears, like, fucking Jedi robes. I want to do that at some point. That looks so cool.
Increasing attributes works exactly like it does in Oblivion, with one difference, being that there are 10 skills that affect your leveling instead of 7, meaning your character levels for longer. If you know Oblivion, you might be, like, really scared hearing that, but don't worry, Morrowind actually gets the leveling system right. Since enemies don't scale very...
Can you beat Oblivion while leveling normally? Challenge run. The old knight would have an aneurysm at this.
very much, it means even a character choosing to only gain 3 attributes per level can still keep up by focusing on their class skills.
Yeah, a pure tanky warrior can still one-shot a lot of shit with like 50 strength. And once you get past 50, everything is actually additive instead of penaltive. And attributes don't play as big of a role in Oblivion as they do in Morrowind. For some reason, strength doesn't have like much of an impact on your damage at all. It's I think what the title is supposed to mean is not level maxing. Your skills have much more of an impact on your damage in Oblivion than your attributes, which I guess makes sense, but it doesn't. It's not intuitive, and just like Morrowind, it's not very properly explained because the game emphasizes strength as your melee damage. So,
like Oblivion, where a
Bethesda
character that
moment.
gets 15 attributes per level can still end up weaker than the enemies around them. LOL.
if you actually play the game vanilla and you put in the effort to get 5 strength in a level, if you level up on a level where all the enemies change, you could still end up weaker. It's only getting +2s and 3s, not going to... Yeah. No, I get it. And you can do that in Morrowind and be fine. But if you do that in Oblivion, you'll get fucked up by something eventually if you don't level your combat skill appropriately. Because everything just universally changes at the level change. It gets more into scaling, because obviously if Oblivion had Morrowind level enemy placement, the scaling system would be fine. But it chose level scaling and then stuck with the system it has instead. So it feels weird.
Instead of needing those bonuses to keep up, they are actually bonuses that feel good and rewarding.
That's the big emphasis here. In Morrowind, you can just put one strength a level and max it out eventually, and you'll feel strong. As long as you focus on longsword, you focus on making sure you can hit, you focus on finding cool new gear, you find new weapons. As long as you're engaging with it in that sense. But yeah, in Oblivion, it's insanely unbalanced. You can be optimizing the best sword available at every point, every level, item leveling threshold, and still just get fucking whopped. My level 25 blade heavy armor character gets wrecked in Oblivion Gates by Zavali. There's only one I can take him, but there's always three. The crazy thing is Zavali, you're supposed to be weaker against melee characters, I think, because they have, like, an ability that shuts down spellcasters. That was a point the old knight made.
And due to trainers having no limits on their training per level, you can power level a skill you don't use like hand-to-hand to get plus 5 speed in that level. Meaning once you start earning more gold, you can power level...
Really engaging
cuts
footage
back on
here.
the tedious grinding that comes with trying to get plus 5 attributes like in Oblivion with spellcasting. Not to mention that every attribute is actually useful, for even more reasons than in Oblivion. Personality is like the...
So I didn't talk about it in this review because I don't think it matters for most people. Because the video is for most people. It's for normal people, right? That's why it's a question. So I didn't go over this, but attributes continue to level past 100 in terms of influencing your character. In Oblivion, speed goes past 100, and certain aspects of all your stats go past 100, but in Morrowind, all your skills stats affect you past 100. So, like, 200 strength makes you twice as strong as that 100. And you can do that with Corpus. You can get, like, crazy high luck. Like, that's why Gainor is a boss fight. What is it? There are certain enemies with crazy high stats. You can do the intelligence looping exploit with alchemy. That's why that works, because it continues to affect it past 100. And that, to me, is beautiful. Because there's no worse feeling than in, like, Skyrim or Oblivion getting a skill past 100 and it having no impact. Like, leveling your skill to 100 naturally, then stacking gear and it not doing anything. That feels terrible. That's why, like, the Fist of Randagolf are so powerful, because you can have 120 strength with it. Stuff like that. The natural weapons, there's a gold shimmer on them. For me, the Oblivion leveling system is worse than any Morrowind's problems. Yeah, I really don't like Oblivion's scaling system. The leveling system is fine in Oblivion. The only issue with Oblivion's leveling is that you can't train infinitely. Because, like, Oblivion skills actually level fast enough that you don't feel the need to, like, break the game with training. If you just use training for just your minor skill or miscellaneous skills to get attribute bonuses, you could still organically play the game and level up quickly. Whereas in Morrowind, like, leveling organically to, like, 40 takes, like, actually, like, 50 hours. So, I don't know. It's actually a fire and shock resist. Wonder why I'm having so much trouble. I just remember it from that one guy's video.
Meme dumpstat of RPGs, and while it is unquestionably the worst attribute, it is still incredibly useful to have at high values. And especially to start with a higher personality like how Imperials do. It will actually...
My boy, thick as fuck.
...make the game noticeably easier.
Why walk when you can ride?
Baseline mechanics over, what good would they be if the game didn't challenge those stats with good quests and factions, right? To get this out of the way, most quests in Morrowind are dookie, and realistically a quest is going to tell you to go somewhere to get something, kill someone, talk to someone, or escort someone. However, the reason Morrowind's quests work in general is how you accomplish this. When someone tells you to go somewhere, they're...
This is important. Most quests in the game are not like Fargoth's hiding place. This is very weird and out of place once you actually play the whole game. And a lot of quests in the starting area do gimmicky weird shit. It's like that rat quest in Oblivion that everyone hypes up. I like it too, but the rest of the Fighters Guild quests are not like that rat quest. It's really weird. If anything, I feel like the only area of the game that consistently delivers on it is like the first half of the Dark Brotherhood in Oblivion. In terms of like setting up a weird gimmick thing and then rolling with it.
Morrowind's quests work in general is how you accomplish this. When someone tells you to go somewhere, there isn't a map marker on screen. You get written instructions telling you how to get there. Like when you're told to go to Caius, you're told the south wall in Balmora. No specific directions, so you have to ask or look around town to find the south wall. Then you ask around inside, and the guy says, go out, take a right, take a left, and he's at the end. There are a few issues with this, like the fact that sometimes the written instruction...
I can actually buy the idea that this is on purpose, since data can be outdated or the person might have been misled, but there isn't really anything to intuit this other than the instructions being wrong. No character motives or ambushes if you go to the wrong places anyways. Yeah, so if there had been a quest where, like, a shady character that, you know, you fumbled an interaction with, like, take the Mages Guild lady that's, like, super shady and has her own vendetta against, like, the Telvanni, right? If you had lied to her about, like, all of the interactions, like, you had lied about stopping the guy from teaching magic, and you had like told Turbonius about the credentials beforehand. If you fudge that up, maybe she could send you to a den that she knew was going to be full of Daedra to get you killed. So, like, and then maybe the true quest target is in a different area and you have to figure that out some other way. But the game never does anything like that. The game is just like, go west, and then it's actually east sometimes. Or it'll be like, go northeast, and you think like, okay, well I gotta go decently far, and then it's like right there, so you overlook it. But this is actually a very cool premise that you can only get away with written instructions. Or that at least would be much more impactful with written instructions. But the game doesn't really do this. There is a Mages Guild teacher that is pranking the local inn with an unkillable ghost. Quest is given by the inn, not the guild, though. That is an interesting quest, but it does devolve to talk to someone else. What I mean more is like... Adis Fire-Eye, the Balmora Fighters Guild lady. If you were a high-ranking Thieves Guild member, and you resolved all her quests, but you had a low disposition with her for some reason, what if she sent you to a den to pick up something, but it was actually full of, like, a bunch of high-level enemies that are, like, outside of where you're supposed to be at that point in the game, and the point is that it's, like, an ambush. And then, like, to actually do the quest that you were sent on, it still exists, but you'd have to find it. But when you get the wrong instructions, like, there's, like, an instruction in Solstheim, where the guy goes, oh, go to the west of the lake, and it's actually just east. It's just wrong. And there's, like, nothing indicating that, like, the guy is senile or anything like that. It's just wrong. You want more curveballs. I'm saying that if you wanted to excuse some of the poor writing as curveballs, you just need to write it. Like, when you go to that lake, the guy goes, oh, go to the west, and then it's east. It's just stupid.
Are just, like, sort of wrong. And then the game will say northeast, but it's basically just a straight line east.
And a lot of the things that are wrong, like I just said in that little speech bubble, are because Morrowind was written by multiple writers on a crunch. Yeah, it's not that bad, but it is a flaw of the game.
Wrong. And then the game will say northeast, but it's basically just a straight line east. So you go diagonally on the map and waste like half an hour looking northeast, only for it to be like literally east. This happened especially in the Morag Tongrids that were out in the wild and on Solstheim. Another issue is that sometimes
those quests fucking suck.
The game just doesn't write this stuff down. Like, you accept the Befalla quest to go poison some dude, and
there's an interesting quest in Serene about finding a slave with a twist, but again, it's a process of talking to multiple people repeatedly. Yeah. The writing has twists, but most of the time if the writing has twists, it devolves to just talking to person A, B, C, A, B, C. I always took directions being slightly off as people not having perfect memories. Yeah. I could agree with that.
Doesn't write this stuff down. Like, you accept the Befalla quest to go poison some dude, and the journal just says, I have agreed to help Befalla. Like, no shit, asshole. Where am I supposed to go? The final issue is that written instructions is that...
The Daedra quests are all really vague for some reason. I think it's on purpose.
They're just sort of unnecessary. People hype them up to this weird degree, like, I can't wait until this sky baby learns there aren't floating map markers in real life. But the problem is that literally every smartphone, like the one you're using to watch this, comes with a GPS we can use to get a map marker to anywhere in the world. Even in universe, clairvoyance exists. It's literally a spell in the setting.
Yeah. So I know that wasn't the case when this came out. Obviously, clairvoyance is a Skyrim inclusion, and GPS has become localized recently. But yeah, it doesn't. There are also sightseeing abilities within the setting, like Uriel Septim the seventh, the Oblivion one, Patrick Stewart. He's literally a clairvoyant. Like, he literally has the ability to foresee the future. That's why he knows that he's going to die, and that it's important to tell you everything you know. Seventh, that it's important to give you the Amulet of Kings and make sure you live, because you're important. He literally can see the future. Now, that's more of like a rare thing, and it's because he's a septum, I believe. I'm not sure. But it literally is in the setting. That's the dragon blood, though. Yeah, I guess. But there are excuses for this, and clairvoyance does become a normal spell. There's even a really funny little mod character called Zelzaz. Now, this is obviously a mod character, but it's using a vanilla spell. He literally, at multiple points, will literally just say, "Oh, I found you because I used clairvoyance." It's hilarious. At least that's the in-game explanation. Kind of does give them some humanity if it's just an excuse for rush disorganized writing. Yeah, I could believe that. I believe Morrowind is a game designed around players getting lost, hence the indirect distractions. That's actually a very good point, because that also explains why there's tons of random dungeons that have incredible items in them for no reason. Because if you get lost and stumble into a dungeon with a powerful item, that in and of itself is a reward. I just think that calls into whether or not you're supposed to be exploring the world or completing the quests. It's a little bit of a conflict there, but that is a good point. One of the blades goes all wide-eyed and says, "Must be the dragon blood." But I know that this stuff wasn't introduced into the game from the start, but I'm saying that, like, I wouldn't have a problem with clairvoyance being a spell or some type of potion. You know, it would I guess it would put more power in the mage characters again, but there'd be probably some other way to explain it. I don't know.
Not to mention, half the locations you're supposed to use as reference, map markers for navigation, don't get marked on the map. Even
they get marked on the local map, but the local map is almost worthless for exploration because it's so small.
When you discover them, which leads to you having to find it a second time. So written instructions end up feeling very unnecessary and frustrating. But I will say that on rare occasion, they did feel good to use, which is why in a true sequel to Morrowind, I think the game should have written instructions, with clairvoyance available for quests where you're given direct instructions.
Yeah, so like, if someone tells you to go to a place and they give you specific written instructions of like, take the road north, then turn west, then, follow it until you see a rock cairn, you could use clairvoyance there. But like when you...
As there are still quests that are intentionally vague, like the tax collector murder, or the Imperial Cult Oracle quest, where you can only get directions of the people who can help you, like you, or are alive.
Yeah, you don't get told where his body is, you have to go find it. You couldn't use clairvoyance there.
Your quests where clairvoyance wouldn't be able to help. When you head to Balmora, you're told to take the Silt Strider, which is one of the few means of fast travel. See, old games didn't have fast travel. Except for Daggerfall, but I'm a Morrow boomer, so we don't talk about that game. The fast travel system is cool for making the world believable and easy enough to figure out. You can take a Silt Strider to go from town to town, a guild...
Local maps are useful when you're inside of a dungeon and you're getting turned around. But like, for the overworld, local maps are completely worthless. They're too small.
Guide to teleport between the Mages Guild halls. Take a ship from port to port. Teleport with the Propylon indices between Dunmer strongholds. Use the Alm Sylvie and Divine Intervention spells to warp to the nearest room.
The version of Morrowind you can buy on Steam doesn't come with the Master Index plugin. So you would actually just be expected to find all 10 indexes in the world. With no hints or directions at all. Fucking anyone who actually found all 10 indexes completely vanilla with no guides is a mad lad.
Religious symbols, or custom mark a location and recall to it with the respective spells. If you think about it for a bit, this sounds cool, but relatively early on I discovered the best place to mark, which is the Sadrith Mora docks. Since from here, you can take a boat, Alm Sylvie to Mollagmar for a Silt Strider, Divine Intervention to Wolverine Hall for the Guild Guide, or head west for the Dunmer Stronghold Fallen Sorrow.
I stumbled on my first index 2 days ago. This map pretty much explains it. You can get anywhere in the world in like 5 minutes if you mark Sager's Mora. Because from Sager's Mora, you can divine to Molag Mar. You can take a boat to Dagon Fell, and then I believe divine to Nisses. You can take a boat to Ebonheart, and then Alm Civvy to Vivek. You can't go to Saint Anine through travel. That's a lie. You can then take the teleporter to Balmora, and then divine intervention to Moonmoth. You can take the teleporter to Caldera, and then divine intervention to Moonmoth, and then Alm Civvy to Aldrune. The only really out of place areas are like Nisses and Margon with this system. But this is too optimal not to mark, which is why I installed multi-mark, because it just wastes your time. Because then you just always teleport here, then you go somewhere else, and you go somewhere else, and it's whatever.
Which starts the index circuit. I think the early game barrier works, but eventually it's almost purely tedious to recall, walk to a service, then travel again, and walk again until you're there.
Why not just install a multi-mark and then just have like one place for your home where you store stuff, and like another place somewhere else? It's not that bad.
However, I do think fast travel should be limited to towns and strongholds, as the feeling of figuring out how to efficiently reach your destination is legitimately very cool.
Yes, if your destination is not somewhere you can fast travel to, the system works. Being able to fast travel to that dwarven ruin at any point that you found in the middle of nowhere would not be good. That would make the game worse. I love Morrowind fast travel. It is so much rewarding for me personally. Yeah. I just think that the areas you can fast travel to, it's a little tedious to take like 3 Silk Striders there. Maybe it could be solved by...
Again, purely tedious to recall, walk to a...
Maybe if this little menu had all Silk Strider locations with the appropriate price. Like, Nisses cost 150, so maybe if you put, like, Molag Mar on here and it also cost a lot. It feels much more immersive than warping there, unless you're a mage. Like, if this option just had all the possible options, it would feel way less tedious. But that's... I don't know.
Service, then travel again, and walk again until you're there. However, I do think fast...
It doesn't matter, by the way, the money. The money is chump change. Other than going to Nisses at level 1, it's never anything, ever. You have to install mods to make it expensive.
Travel should be limited to towns and strongholds, as the feeling of figuring out how to efficiently reach your destination is legitimately very cool. At first, you might water walk on coast to run into the least resistance. Then you might levitate over hills in short bursts. Then you might literally Hulk ultimate destruction for the PS2 jump over the map. This manual journeying also serves as a chance to see how strong you are by fighting cliff racers, which are the best enemy in the game. They're cute little pterodactyl guys who make funny little sounds and will fight even levitating or jumping characters. I'll say now that if you hate cliff racers, you hate Morrowind. Every single enemy behaves like cliff racers except for their speed, which includes slaughterfish, Nixhounds, Ashlander Dunmer, and all other sorts of beasts. If you hate how persistent the cliff racers are, you just don't like wild enemy encounters in this game. Like, I don't know what to tell you, because they all boil down to some creature charging you and making a noise over and over relentlessly. Finally, when you make it to Caius Casades and stare at his anime-ass buff old man abs, you'll realize he doesn't have dialogue like the tutorial guards did. You do actually have to read in this game.
Read, nigga, read!
This is a rare Morrowind W, no buts. I can't stress enough that the journal, if it actually writes everything down...
I love Radapombo so much. His Twitter is so fucking funny. Don't go there if you're underage. There's mad porn. But it is like... His shitpost art is fucking hilarious. He has like one where it's like Morrowind if it's a good game and everyone is just a walking foot with a head. It's the fucking funniest picture I've ever seen.
Means you can mostly just mash through the related quest dialogue and then check the journal to see what to actually do or where to go. Meaning memorization isn't even that necessary for the most part. This would be fine, but...
It's very easy to just mash through the quest-related dialogue that the person will prompt you at the top to do, and then just get everything you need to know. And then if you get lost, check the journal and see what it said. And if you have all the plugins installed, you can just literally go to your quest tab and hit quests and sort per quest, and that usually makes it good enough. It's not perfect, but it's very easy to just ignore the dialogue if you want to.
On top of the fact that most of the guilds, and especially the main story, are worth getting invested in and reading, helps make the reading aspect not only tolerable, but enjoyable. And while I do certainly adore Wes Johnson and Dagoth,
Come, Nerevar, friend or traitor, come. Oh, please, Nerevar, spare me.
I couldn't find who this is, who animated that, unfortunately. If it's you or if you know who it is, let me know so I can credit them. But I fucking adore this.
Oh, dear me. Forgive me, but I am enjoying this. I surrender. I surrender. Omnipotent.
given Bethesda's voice acting quality in general,
Stay strong. Come to our master and be a companion.
I don't think having to listen to all of the dialogue you're supposed to read would be very good, with a few notable exceptions. Yes, I'm Crashius Curio, but you can call me Uncle Crashius. Ah yes, that is my name, but it sounds like music when you say it. A Hordador is a champion who leads by inspiration. He challenges opposing heroes in single combat. He goes on long, desperate quests. I'm so glad to see you again, Meat. All the counselors agree? Splendid. I'm so happy for you. What an honor. But no more than you deserve, Pumpkin.
I wanted to put like a picture of like some I don't know, some trans model holding a pumpkin, but apparently a lot of trans women really fucking hate that the pumpkin thing is a meme, so I didn't want to do that. But that's why I put this here.
And now I have a little treat for you. It's a belt given to the Hortator of House Lalu.
Actual 360p footage, by the way. This was downloaded in 360p and re-uploaded. It's the crunchiest footage known to man.
Just snug it around that supple little waist now. I know you have important things to do, but don't be a stranger. Don't neglect poor, lonely Uncle Crassus, your devoted admirer. And since so much dialogue is necessary to understand the culture and geography of Vardenfell, trying to simply voice the dialogue already
Also, I forgot to credit 2 songs on here. I think this is Bass Strip Steps, and I think the next one is Street from the Einhander OST. They're both really good, and I'm sorry I forgot to put the credit for them on screen. I don't think anyone cares. I just do that because I like crediting songs and stuff. But I put it in the comment, like the description. It's it's Space Trip Steps, Meteor Herded Street. The Einhander OST fucks, by the way.
present would be a horrible solution due to budgeting and time. Really, I have tried to argue against the Moro boomers and come up with solutions the whole video, but this doesn't need fixing. When you start the main quest for Caius, you'll be told to go join the factions and train before he gives you orders. This is so nice since it gives an in-universe explanation as to how you can just ignore the main quest and encourages you to try the guilds, which in Balmora includes the Thieves, Fighters, and Mages guilds, as well as the Temple, House Nalu, and the Morag Tong. This gives each archetypal character one set of quests as well as a great house to join, setting up new characters to do a few quests in and around Balmora to earn some gold for training. Like in
Yeah, so ragging on Oblivion a little bit more. In that game, you get a little pop-up when you leave the sewers that's like, go out there and do whatever you want, but then you just got like a super urgent main quest that basically tells you if you fuck around, the world is going to end. And I get that as a video game player, you're just supposed to be like, oh, okay, well, I'll deal with that when I want to. But if you take the story seriously, it feels terrible. Skyrim doesn't even give you the little prompts telling you to go wherever and do anything. It's just like, no, get your ass to Riverwood. And it's only up to you as a player who knows that it doesn't matter to ignore it. But the context in the story that you can ignore it for a while before it becomes urgent is good. And the story is urgent. Very urgent. Once it gets going. But whether or not you engage with it is a choice. I don't know if it was in this option right here. Yes. Are you ready to follow my orders? There's a yes or no prompt, and if you say no, he's just like, okay, come back when you're willing to. Like, that's so epic. He literally just goes like, yeah, if you don't want to follow my orders, then just get out of here. And the main story never starts. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to do that, but it is a good option if you don't want to for like role playing or to delay it. And then even once you join, he tells you to go do training and get jobs.
Oblivion and Skyrim, leveling skills is just as horrible in Morrowind, if not worse, due to the omnipresent RNG. It is circumvented by the training system. When you find a trainer, which are everywhere, you can train a skill to the level that matches the attribute. Meaning if you have 50 speed since you're a Dunmer, you can train unarmored to 50 since it's governed by speed. No training limit in between levels. Longblade, sneak, mysticism, you want it, it's yours, my friend. So long as you have enough gold. While the attribute cap for training does sometimes screw over a character who tags too many of their attribute skills as majors, which can leave you unable to train, there are ways around this, and having skills at 30 to 50 is totally doable for the first few quests. So if this system works so well, why do new players struggle so hard with getting their skills up early?
The only problem with the system is that once you learn how powerful training is, you have to self-impose not to abuse it. You can literally build a character that is like level 50 and like maxed out in like 10 hours. The in-game economy is not balanced for training. If training like had an exponential increase rate so that it costs the same that it does at like level like 5 to 20 or like maybe 5 to 30, but then at like 50 plus it exponentially increased so that it cost like multiple thousands for in the 70s. That would probably balance it out, as it is. But as it is now, training is too strong. Too strong. Because money is nothing in this game. You can have like 20k in the first hour. It's not... You have to prevent min-maxing once you understand how OP it is, yeah. So the way that I found to do this is to just train miscellaneous skills. So like... If I want to get 5 endurance that level, train heavy armor from 55 to 65 with a trainer, and then use my major skills organically to get actually the 10 levels. I started doing that, but it feels awful that you have to do that yourself. Because the optimal way to play is to just earn gold and then go to trainers. And then you're strong enough to do anything in the game. I don't really know a solution for this one, though. Like, I'm not smart enough for that. Because if you do the Oblivion thing and you limit training to 5 a level, training is worthless. 5 a level isn't even worth enough to get a +5 attribute bonus. So, at that point, it's worthless. And then, I don't know. The Skyrim system is actually okay with this a little bit, because your focused skills impact your leveling process more. So in Skyrim, a level 82 illusion to level 83 would give you, let's just say, like 10 experience, whereas like Acts 11 to 12 would give you like 2 experience for your actual level up, which is actually very smart as an alternative. But I don't know. I don't know the best solution to this. You just have to self-impose not to abuse it. And anytime you have to self-impose limitations on yourself for a game, it kind of feels a little bad.
Because the game does not do a good job at explaining anything. Since this is the point in the main story where you decide to ignore the guilds or join one, either way you'll be told to do something other than talking to someone. And this is when new players put down the game. And you know what? I don't blame them. My first run made it to the egg poachers in the
I kind of wanted to put the "It's Going Down Now" song over this so bad. This footage is sped up like 20 times, by the way.
Where I quit because I didn't understand what was happening. See, everything I explained before, the game doesn't really explain it.
Disturbing the peace.
And if a game is going to have as
look
many
into
parts
my
as this,
eyes,
they need to be thoroughly explained to the player. Since I ran to the egg mine, I wasted my fatigue. Then I kept missing because of the hit chance RNG. Then my gear broke even though I was missing. Then the enemy's gear broke, so we both fought hand to hand and missed each other for 20 minutes until I decided to stop playing. Why did this scenario happen? Well, now I know it's because I wasted my fatigue, then used a low durability weapon I wasn't skilled in. But did the game ever say, hey, you only have 20% chance to hit?
No hit chance in combat. That's a mod.
Or tell me what multiplier my fatigue was impacting that dice roll by?
It never tells you what the multiplier is. You have a deficit of, I think, about minus 50 to 70, I think, is what it is. And then when you're at full, it's a plus 25%.
Or tell me that durability lowers even on a miss when my weapon broke. Or that attacks can miss in general, even if the models intersect.
Look, I know that Morrowind fans really hate that people harp on this. But you have to understand how unintuitive this is for someone that, like, isn't a Morrowind fan, if you look at something and you tap on it, like literally almost any other game ever would just be like, okay, you've interacted. If the game just says, had a little pop-up, like a tutorial for combat, like maybe when you pick up the dagger and attack, it says, well, you weren't able to connect. Chances you have a chance to miss. I don't know, something.
No. The fact that there are a million pop-ups in the census office explaining how to open the menu kind of proves that the game could have explained more, and intentionally didn't. The lack of a visible hit chance percent in combat is also a deliberate decision, since the spells menu shows you your chance to cast, which actually does fluctuate depending on fatigue and silent.
Yes, if you were at 0, this character is at max fatigue. If I dropped that fatigue, that chance would go down to about 70 or so, and it would be reflected in the spell menu. Genuinely, they just chose not to convey this to the player. It's so bizarre.
Meaning the frustrating lack of feedback in combat is likely intentional. When you combine this with the low movement speeds and the fact that non-combat quests suck early on, most people don't make it past Balmora for a reason. The second type of quest
And again, this is for normal people. This isn't for Morrowind fans. This is asking if this is worth playing for normal people. Most normal people are going to experience Balmora, the RNG, and the quest and be like, I'm not, this isn't for me. I think Morrowind requires a lot of self-imposing, though. Yes, so the Fist of Randagolth that we went over earlier. There's a really janky way that Morrowind levels enemies. All enemies in the game level to you up to, I think, about 15. So, if you enter Elunbi, north of Narmak, at level 1, the enemies are dreamers. There's nothing more dangerous than a dreamer in there, unless I'm mistaken. And you can defeat dreamers at any level. So you can go get the Fist of Randagolth easier at level 1 than at level 20. Which, that once you learn that, it's literally just up to you to say, okay, I'm not going to go get the Fist of Randagolth at level 1. You know? And it's like, the fact that I have to consciously do that it feels bad. Very bad. Now, in some cases, it feels good, like rushing the Master's alchemy equipment in Caldera. That's obviously very good, because all it does is just make your potions like a little bit stronger. But it doesn't break the game. If you have 5 alchemy, you still can't do anything with it. But the Fist of Randagolth gives you like 100 pounds, and it basically gives you an extra, like, solid percent of hit chance early on. Those items are worth rushing. You know? I think it's just about the power of the item that you can rush. There's a mine. I can look this up. Morrowind mine Daedric weapon. Bound weapons. That's a good example too. But the thing is, you have to conjure bound weapons. Yeah. All you have to do is enter and exit the cave, making an easy way to receive a Daedric weapon early on. You can do this at level 1. The Vassar did it at Ebony Mine. You can do that at level 1. And once you learn that, you just have to choose not to do that. Galbadir Souls. I disagree. Galbadir Souls are fine. And Creeper. Now, Creeper is interesting. I didn't go over this because a normal person playing the game will not find Creeper. But Creeper introduces a really weird discussion. People argue that Creeper is completely fine because if you play the game normally, you would never find him. Which is fucking stupid. If he's in the game, he needs to, and he sells stuff, you should use him. But then once you figure that out, you can just go to him and by selling an item and then selling a more expensive item and taking the original item back and then selling that first item again, you can get full value for any weapon in the game. So he breaks the economy a little bit, but not really. It just speeds it up, really. But Creeper's a really weird argument. Sword of White Woe, that's patched out in OpenMW. thankfully. Gallbladder souls are fine. Bound weapons. So for bound weapons, you do have to, like, make sure you can summon them. And then when a fight starts, you have to be able to summon them before you get mauled. And then you can still miss with bound weapons. So I think it's still fine.
You get besides killing things is item retrieval. How this is done can technically vary, but most of the time it boils down to walking somewhere and walking back. Or maybe there's a thievery type element introduced. The House Lalu quest in Balmora literally has you just walking to someone in Aldroon and bringing the papers you get back. No personality check or anything.
You just have to have the helmet on, which I don't think is... She gives you the helmet. Okay, making this quest interesting, right? You have to get the helmet yourself. There you go. It's a good quest. But the only interesting thing is that if you have the helmet on you, but you don't wear it, she'll attack you. Naminda, which I didn't know.
It only exists to further punish Beast Race characters, since you won't even get this quest or the reward since you need to wear a helmet you're given for one dialogue exchange.
Now, you could argue that's storytelling. What is it? Storytelling. So, the fact that Beast Races can't do that quest is conveyed by the fact that they literally can't wear helmets. But I don't think that's very... you already experienced that for yourself because you can't wear helmets. So I don't see what the point of that quest for Beast Races is.
An example of a more nuanced fetch quest in the Thieves Guild quest to get a diamond for Hibashi. She wants a diamond and points you to Nokaria's shop.
This is purely stolen from Patrician TV, by the way. No bullshit.
There's one diamond on the table in front of her, one in her merchant inventory, and 3 locked in her chest upstairs. As far as a thief goes, these test the sneak, mercantile, and security skills, which allow you to choose an approach best suited to your highest skill.
I actually was a dumbass here. It also tests your personality and speechcraft skills. Because, being able to persuade her to like you more gives you better prices than just haggling. So you can combine your speechcraft and mercantile skill here. But I don't think it's not that big a deal.
The only problem is that while this allowing you to use your stealth skills is cool, most mage characters can also accomplish this task. Magic is overpowered in Morrowind. To such an extent it introduces the dilemma of gameplay freedom versus the optimal path. Something YouTuber video essay optimized the fun out of their game. Magic in Morrowind is so powerful that it can invalidate entire skills and attributes. Take the Hibashi Diamond quest. A player with Induce Eyes Open, a spell from the Alteration skill.
I have tried to replay Tears of the Kingdom, and knowing the hover bike exists literally makes it harder. I'm not even shitting you. I rag on that game a lot, but that actually might be the biggest problem in that game. Literally, it invalidates an entire core mechanic of the game. It's so crazy. You have to choose not to use it too. It's wild. I want to go back to play Tears of the Kingdom again because Link is a twink, but yeah, I can't. It's so boring once you know how that works.
Could invalidate the option to lockpick. To buy the diamonds, a player could use a fortified personality spell from Restoration to bypass the mercantile skill, or a chameleon spell from the illusion tree could be used to bypass the sneak skill. In a similar vein, a lot of chests are trapped with magical spells that will harm the player, which can be disabled using probes from the security skill. However, a mysticism mage could use telekinesis to get around this trap, since the trap only activates on touch. What this means is that knowing the spells Induce Eyes Opening and Telekinesis and having access to a Spellmaker invalidate the entire security skill. And these aren't difficult to find spells either. They're in Balmora and a town you'll be sent to in the early stages of the main quest. Frenzy is another spell in an easily accessible town that essentially bypasses the taunt to fight part of the speechcraft system. And with DLC vendors like in Mournhold, which you will likely end up seeking out to stop the Dark Brotherhood attacks, you can get the Fortify skill effect.
So, Fortify skill, which I'm about to go on a tangent on, is something I've actually had to introduce self-imposing rules against because it just invalidates like 5 skills. The way that I do it is I have an expansion delay so that you have to become Lalu Hortator before you get attacked by the Dark Brotherhood. This means that to get Fortify skill, you would either need to become Lalu Hortator, or... Oh, I just realized something. Hold on one sec. Okay, sorry.
Which do that?
Okay, sorry, I just realized I wasn't recording. This is one of those things where I can't afford to lose it if it dies out. So essentially, you have to become Lalu Hortator, or you have to progress the Soul Slime main quest. And the Soul Slime main quest is like the hardest series of quests in the game, so I think that's fair. I did that mainly for the Dark Brotherhood armor, but it also has the effect of limiting Fortify skill. And the Fortify skill warps the game. It is undoubtedly bronze metal, even better than Mercantile. The biggest advantage of bound weapons is that they don't have weight, so it consumes less fatigue. That's also good. I didn't know that.
We end up seeking out to stop the Dark Brotherhood attacks. You can get the Fortify skill effect, which due to how menu timing works can also invalidate the armor, alchemy, and enchanting skills by crafting 100 magnitude spells that last 1 or 2 seconds. Conjuration is also one of the stronger skills since bound weapons have a plus 10 skill modifier, and stats equal to Daedric, meaning you can almost ignore your character build and have one of the strongest weapons in your class available in Balmora, that you can use decently well at least. Since 15 is comparable to the 20 a 5 skill with a minor skill bonus would have. Levitate bypasses the acrobatic skill for dungeon crawling. Jump bypasses acrobatics for world traversal.
Fuckhead!
And water walking bypasses the athletic skill in bodies of water. Restore attribute and cure disease can invalidate the religious altars, and there are areas only magic can do. Calming an NPC can allow you to raise their disposition so they're permanently friendly, which multiple of the master trainers in the game start off hostile. Fortifying an attribute with spells allows you to train outside your attribute limit, removing that barrier to progression. Restoring fatigue over time can effectively negate the running issue, and Sanctuary has a more direct impact on evasion than Agility point for point. Resist Magicka is necessary for the Boots of Blinding Speed and easier to cast than finding or making potions in the early game, and weightless to carry around, meaning in a sense, it also helps solve the speed issue. While I'm saying this like it's a bad thing, I'm sort of split. There are alternatives if you never want to cast a spell once, but honestly, it would make the entire game so much more tedious and inventory management focused that I could not imagine trying to play Morrowind without magic.
That's a big point. Most of what I just went over has like lockpicks, the speedcraft system. You can carry potions and scrolls, but God, you just have to be constantly managing your weight a shit ton, and you'd be constantly going into the menu, the item menu to find what you need, which is way more annoying than spells. It'd be so fucking tedious to do it this way.
And since magic can be custom crafted at the spellmaker and you can see the cast chance,
that's another thing. You can make weak versions of spells that are more cost efficient in magnitude. You can't control the magnitude of like a spell, a potion. So if you make a levitate potion, it's just going to be super, super crazy strong. But for levitate, for instance, because you are maximizing the cost to cast chance, you can make it 1 point because levitate is crazy super expensive. This isn't the case for everything, but sometimes it matters.
it feels so good to improve a skill and check and see the number to cast go up over time. I just wanted to go over how OP magic is.
We're not
Your
flying.
character can
We're
hit things
falling
with a
with
sword
style.
and can cast spells. There's only static high-level enemies stopping you from completing any quest in the game outside of Balmora.
It's true. If you have restoration, you can cast any spell in the game, and at that point, the only thing stopping you from getting anything is just the fact that some enemies are just too strong. They'll just chat through whatever you can do. But you can cut your game in half with restoration. Obviously you want to get the Fist of Randagolf, just make a healing spell and just run through the dungeon, and if you get hit at all, just heal yourself, get the items, and then teleport out. You can't cast a teleport spell, make a Fortify Mysticism spell. It's crazy how much restoration warps the game.
In this way, the flexibility on offer on any quest is basically up to you, which is incredible. The main quest of Morrowind is where all of the good writing in the game, best dungeon designs, and interesting quests are. The first quest telling you to go join a guild and get stronger is so perfect as a start to allow your character to organically go do side quests and also make sense in-universe. You're a scrawny clown snatch who just made it to Morrowind, and Kaya sizes you up perfectly.
I don't know if
From
anyone
here,
in
the
my
next two
audience is
quests
going to
force
get
you to
that.
learn the written direction system in the Dwemer Ruin dungeon will teach most players about the concept of coming back to a ruin you couldn't explore, as Ass-Fat Himbo Hollis will give you a key that opens a previously locked door, which with the randomly difficult place.
Out of all the videos I've edited this one was like by far the most tolerable because I hate editing so much, but I actually had a little bit of fun editing this one because I took it so unseriously. Shit like that actually made me laugh while I was recording and editing. As opposed to, like, the other long video I've done this length, which was, like, the My Hero Academia, like, power scale tier list, which was, like, a fucking slog to get through because it's just power scaling.
Dungeons that are just really tough. It helps organically tell you that some dungeons are just too tough, but that they'll still be there when you can meet the challenge. Caius even says something like this directly. Chef's kiss, man. Just impeccable.
I was too fucking lazy editing because I was burning out at this point, but he says, you want a little advice? You never know if a dungeon's going to be too tough, if a job's going to be too tough. If you find yourself in trouble, then get out of there and come back when you're strong enough. It's really epic.
After this great start, the game will send you to Vivek, and I have to say that I do like Vivek, but that it's a situation where I like more than I dislike. Really, Vivek is a problem to navigate due to the game's movement speed and lack of magic regeneration. As the city isn't so bad as you learn the design pattern of the cantons, and if you can always reset your location with Almcivi intervention, you can't really get lost. But as
there's actually a design flaw with the cantons I didn't point out here that I should have, because it would have made people be more on my side. The way that the cantons are laid out is there's canal work, there's underworks, which is like a sewer. There's canal works, which is like the lowest floor, and then there's waste works, and then depending on the canton, there's higher waste works, and then there's the plaza. The problem is that you see these little side doors. The canton doors are on one side of the building, and wastework doors are on the other of the second floor. But they're not consistent. Some of the wastework floors are like on the west and east sides, and then on others they're on the north and south. Which means that you also have to like learn individually each canton's plaza entrance. Which is fucking stupid. The foreign plaza is also weird because it has more levels. Because they shove all the white people in there. And then there's like the arena, which is fucking worthless outside of like the Morag Tong being there, and you go there sometimes for quests where you have to fight people. The Telvanni Plaza is actually fucking worthless though. You only go there to kill people for the Morag Tong. You literally don't go there for anything else. There's no quest to be had from the Telvanni people. There's like one quest from a Telvanni dude where you have to kill rats. Okay, we already had that in Balmora. Fucking the Lalu Plaza is like the furthest you can possibly get from fast travel for like a quest giver that you have to go back to over and over. And like, again, the layout's inconsistent. Why the fuck are the doors on different sides on every fucking building? You didn't have to do that. You could have just had it be that the plaza entrance is always north and south, and that the wastework entrance is always west and east. That's all you had to do. It's so close. It's so frustrating. And there's like so many random quest givers here too. You basically just have to ask every NPC that you talk to for a quest about rumors to get a quest here. It's crazy. There's like 40, there's like at least 10 side quests here. I've done a bunch. There's tons of stuff you can do here. But God, the plazas being different on each one is so annoying. Also, the fact that fucking like St. Dylan is worthless. Like, get rid of the arena, put the arena inside of the Redoran one, and then make it so that the Telvanni one is next to the foreign quarter. Make it an even 6. You know, just do that. Just do that. And then make sure all the buildings follow the plaza on the north and south rule. There you go. Vivek solved.
As it is in vanilla, you come here early and magic doesn't regenerate. So Vivek does fail and is fairly criticized, since when you have to come here, you won't be ready for it. But I still really like the canton system and the way the gameplay mechanics tie.
Oh boy, did you see that fucking... Look at the building in the corner. Look at that fucking visual right there.
But I still really like the canton system and the way the gameplay mechanics tie into the character right.
That right there explains why people would want to fucking live here. That's a beautiful shot.
Won't be ready for it. But I still really like the canton system and the...
Yep, I wish the arena had more to it. It's fine as just an area you come to kill people. That's what an arena is, but it'd be epic if there was an arena-style questline. It would work way better in Oblivion, because they could just make the enemies progressively stronger, and if you get your ass beat, you just come back.
The way the gameplay mechanics tie into the character writing of Vivek himself, I think it's really well done.
My pronouns are they and them. because I'm non-binary, but because I'm literally two niggas.
Vivek is such an egomaniac that when Shiogora threw Bardal at Vivek, he stopped the meteor but left it above Vivek's temple as a monument to remind his subjects how powerful and worthy of fear he is. The cantons themselves are full of wanted...
So, some people see this more as Vivek being unable to stop the meteor completely, which is true. However, that was in the moment. He's had years after that to do whatever he wanted with it. And the fact that they literally carved out the inside of the meteor to act as a prison just proves that they just fucked around. Like, if they have the time and willpower to, like, mine out the meteor to serve as a prison, they could just mine all of the meteor away until there's no rock. Like, the fact that the meteor hits Vivek and causes the red year is fucking Vivek's fault. There's no justification for this. Some people actually try to justify this for some reason. I guess it's like people who try to justify God's acts of cruelty, but like, I don't know.
criminals and the underworld's infested with cults, but it's up to the player as an agent of the guilds or temple to clean the city up, rather than the god Vivek, who literally lives here, which reinforces just how miserable and pathetically weak the tribunal have become due to their war with Dagoth Ur.
I actually feel much stronger about that point since I finished Tribunal. Almalexia literally makes you cause ash storms in Mordhold, just to fuck over her subjects and remind them that she's a god. Like, what a fucking bitch.
The quest in Vivek asks for different solutions to their problems than the dungeon delving combat from before, just in case you beeline to the main story here, which I think is a nice touch. Something even cooler I like to go over is something called the back door, since technically you can start that quest here in Vivek right now, but realistically most players wouldn't know that they could or even know how. Vivek is inside his palace, which is locked at level 100 and trapped, which as we went over in the magic section, means you might be able to open this door the first time you visit Vivek. Inside Vivek's palace, he won't turn hostile and just says, and refuses to talk, but you can murder him here and now and take Wraithguard, the artifact on his body, to a character you would have met in the main story later, and get it fixed up to go straight after Sunder and Heaney, the weapons necessary to defeat Dagoth Ur and end the game. See, in Morrowind, there are no essential characters. Besides Dagoth Ur, any character can be walked up to and murdered, provided you have the skill to achieve this.
The fact that Dagoth Ur is immortal, by the way, is actually good storytelling too, because it emphasizes how powerful he is in lore with the connection to the heart of Lorkhan. There's a rational explanation for it and a story explanation for why you can't kill him. So the fact that he is the only immortal character out of the gate is actually very good. I think that adds to the story. It's incredible.
Most people leave this out when talking about essential characters, but Vivek is not a pushover. Despite making fairly strong characters, he's a consistent challenge. Seeing as I dislike Vivek and Almalexia, it's incredibly satisfying to build a character strong enough to walk up, break into his throne room, and murder him for the item I need. Could you imagine if in Skyrim...
I don't think you can do that with Almalexia. The footage earlier kind of speaks for itself, but I don't think a melee character can kill Almalexia with her guards. Technically, if you kill Almalexia right there, I think you would save Sothasil, but... Which I think Sothasil's the only one that's kind of redeemable. He seems like a good person. He's like incredibly remorseful for the fact that he fucked over his friend to gain immortality, and he feels incredibly sad that he wasn't able to do more with his power in the time he had. So Sothasil seems more chill, but I don't like these two for a lot of reasons. I've gone over this on stream multiple times. Oh no, Vivek is an asshole. I love how well Morrowind depicts the corrupted cult leaders. I wouldn't call him a cult leader. He is a god. In this universe, he is absolutely a god. But the problem is, in this universe, gods aren't like the Christian god. They're like Greek gods. They just like exist, you know? He could have done more. But like, he has like his weird fucking... Oh, Vivek took off his clothes and helped a muck farmer, and like, he has people worship him for it, and it's like, you fucking egomaniac. Just help people. You murdered your friend to gain this power. If you want to be seen as a good person, be a good person.
A high-level Dragonborn could just walk up and kill Ulfric and end the Civil War in one day, almost as if they were a legendary hero of terrible power and prophecy.
Yeah, fucking Skyrim jab. The fact that every character in that game is fucking immortal. Realistically, this is my hottest Skyrim take ever. There should be no Legion questline. The Civil War for the Legion should just be walking up and killing Ulfric, because you're the Dragonborn. Whereas for the Stormcloaks, the questline should be taking back all of the holds. which would make the questline so much better. I think it is. I think it will be that the Stormcloaks are the canon choice to Dragonborn helps, personally. Even though I would always side with the Legion and kill Ulfric. So I think that the Stormcloak Rebellion questline would be so much better if you had to take over each hold. That's my hot take. The Legion side should literally just be walking up and killing him, which like only you can get away with because you're the Dragonborn, and then the Stormcloak side should be taking over all of the 8 other holds, which would be so epic. That would be so raw, wouldn't it? I felt sympathetic for Dagoth Ur, but never for Vivek. Vivek, no. Sothasil a little bit, and definitely not Almalexia. Fuck Almalexia. All my homies hate Almalexia.
Kind of makes you think. After this, you'll have to go find out where the Ashlander camps are and go to one, which will force you to actually journey out into the Ashlands. The Ashlanders of Morrowind are ultra-national, xenophobic tradcasts who worship the Nerevarine prophecies and the good
Sympathetic.
the modern tribunal of Azura, Boethia, and Mephala. If you find the right guy, you can tell him to square up, but he recognizes you'd rock his shit unless you talk to the boss. It makes you go
Yeah,
to
I was super burnt out by this point in the editing process because I was too fucking lazy to put that on there. But I do love that when you go talk to that guy, he's like, I see you're a worthy challenger. You would kill me.
Real caverns to fetch something for him. The caverns are a step up from Earthengand, and it uses water, height, and ghost to force you to adapt, and afterwards, Debani Mesa will tell you
This
about
isn't
the
laziness, I just love the
The
shot.
Nerevarine prophecy was one of my favorite aspects of the story. There are 7 trials the player would need to fulfill to be the Nerevarine, and you currently meet some of them and not others, meaning you may or may not be the Nerevarine. There are 2 interpretations of the player's role as the Incarnate. Those being that you are literally the soul of Saint Nerevar reborn, and that this status allows you to overcome the trials of the game, and the second being that you become the Nerevarine solely through overcoming the trials as your own person, becoming legendary through your own perseverance. This is actually...
I focused on you, the Nerevarine, versus you, the player, but you, are you the Nerevarine because you passed the 7 trials, or did you pass the 7 trials because you're the Nerevarine is also interesting. Yeah, so... Obviously, that's the, like, baseline storytelling, is that you are the Nerevarine, but whether you are because you're the reincarnation of Nerevar, or because you are your own player and you progressed and got strong in the game as your own character that you made, it's sort of what's being asked. Like, when Dagoth Ur says, do you think you're really the reincarnation of Nerevar? It's a choice you make, because it's based on how you interpret the events of the game. Dagoth Ur asks, do you think you are Nerevar, or do you think you are simply a Nerevarine, essentially? And it's up to you to say, like, I think I am Nerevar, I don't think I'm Nerevar, I might be, or I don't really care. What I'm saying here is that, in a certain way, you do get to, I don't know. I sort of think, in a way, when he asks you that it could be that, like, you, the player, like, the reason I think it's more that you are the Nerevarine, because you as an individual are not the soul of Nerevar, but you overcame the trials and became Nerevarine, is because you, the player, like playing games. Not because you, the player, were destined to play Morrowind. Not because the soul of your ancestor makes you play Morrowind. I don't know. But I just don't really like prophecy in general. So it might just be a very personal preference kind of thing.
Actually, I think more intended to be a meta commentary. And it's asking you...
I don't know about that. I think that was very odd wording. Things like this are left for the player's interpretation, a lot of things are. I address that in a second, because I make a point about how storytelling in games works so well in this game because it's a game.
If your character does what they do in-game because of the lore and story of the setting, or if your character does what they do because you, the player, like playing video games. And you persevered and overcame Morrowind's change.
The fucking mud crab.
There. I lean heavily towards it being the second interpretation, but most people who started the series with Oblivion or Skyrim would probably prefer the first interpretation. This sort of up-to-interpretation story also plays well into the characterization of Azura, as her prophecies are often vague and she usually only speaks to people who have already done enough to fit into them, which make her visions look better. And through a lot of her dialogue sounding more happy that the Tribunal are dying than the Dun were being saved, it kind of supports this a little bit. The trial you fulfill by default...
Okay, so I talk about it later, but essentially, you have to decide a lot of what you believe inside of the story of the game. What happened at Red Mountain And whether you're Nerevar or simply a Nerevarine, which are two different things, that's up to you to decide because you're playing the game. It's a choice. It's like when you choose to go somewhere and do something. The storytelling is as you participate in the storytelling like that because it's a game, and games are interactive, and I think that's very cool.
Is being born on a certain day, which is your character's birth sign. By creating a character, you fulfill 2 of the trials, and the next trial is something that Bonnie will...
I got that wrong, but it doesn't. It's not a big deal. The second trial you pass is Corpus.
refuse to tell you about. When you go back to Caius, you get sent to a 6-house base, which is much less of a dungeon escalation, since it's just corridors, but a combat gauntlet of harder enemies than before. And you'll end it with getting cursed with Corpus. And on returning to Caius
The
this time...
scroll of visual cleared. Fucking Turbonius' staff is one of the goofiest weapons in the game.
and you get sent to go get cured by the Telvanni wizard Devethir, the legendary gooner who created 4 fem clones of himself that he uses as a harem. Every day that you have the disease, your strength and endurance gets...
I should have put the line in there. He talks about how one of his fem clones like yells at him and nags at him, and he says, conflict is the spice of life." It's such a fucking gooner.
stronger, and your intelligence, willpower, agility, speed, and personality lower. People also treat you like a plagued monster, which is kind of appropriate.
Get him out of here! He's got AIDS!
The cool thing is that when you get cured, you keep your beneficial stats, which I love to abuse to get 100 extra strength so I can carry stuff easier. While getting cured, you run into Yagram Bagaram, an average Elder Scrolls YouTuber who is the person that can help you with the backdoor if you kill Vivek or mess up any main quest by killing story NPCs. You can kill him too before getting Wraithguard figs, which would probably ruin the game for most people, but you can chug health potions to deal with Sunder and King's health drain, meaning Morrowind is really and truly free in terms of allowing you to skip forward stages in the main quest and kill whoever you want, which I want to emphasize is the freedom you feel by not using it. There isn't a good reason to kill Yagram, but by choosing not to instead of Yagram being immortal by the game's logic, it makes you feel more like you're choosing to work with and save the people of Vardenfell, since you could easily kill most of the population. Now that you're cured of the negative symptoms of Corpus but still afflicted with it, you are now immune to all diseases and aging, fulfilling more of the prophecy of the Nerevarine. Caius tells you to go save one of the people you talk to and...
This is just story recap, so I'm not focusing as much on what I'm saying here, because this is more so selling you, in case you heard all that and you're like, I don't know, then listening to how epic the story is, you might be like, yeah, I want to experience that. No, I was wrong. I guess the speedrun goes and gets Wraithguard really quickly now. But the way that the speedrun used to be done is you would literally just use hotkeys to equip Sunder and Keening before the health drain could affect you. It's literally possible at all stages of the game to complete the main quest. As long as you're resourceful enough. I wouldn't be, but, maybe you are.
Vivek earlier for him before leaving, giving you his house as a player home. The Moon Sugar Scuba Diving. The lady is inside that meteor, and once you save her, you go to a safe house for the distant...
Fucking square up, boy!
People who believe in the prophecy of the Nerevarine who are persecuted heavily by Vivek, which has always made me think he's covering up for his murder of Nerevar. Now that she's safe, the priest...
Yeah, there's another point for Vivek being like a fucking slimy bastard. If there was no truth to the murder of Nerevar, why doesn't he just let the people preach? There's like an argument that the reason he does this is the Stormcloak Talos thing. So inside of the world of Elder Scrolls, divine beings literally gain power when people worship them. This is like a proven thing. So you can make the argument that Vivek is doing this in order to congregate all of his power that he can, but why, right? He doesn't persecute the Dissonant Priests before Dagoth. He persecuted the Dissonant Priests before Dagoth Ur was ever an issue. He didn't need all that power for something. He just didn't want people to know about it because he's a fucking snake who murdered his friend. But yeah. That's also why Almalexia's plan actually makes sense, even though I fucking hate her for it. Because she was literally going to get people to worship her in place of Vivek and Sothasil and then congregate all of that power for herself.
Give you the lost prophecies, which the Ashlander lady Nabani from the Ursulaku will read, and then help you complete the rest of the 7 trials. The first 2 trials are completed, and now the 3rd trial is to find the Cavern of the Incarnate. which is given in a really vague riddle, but unfortunately I found it by accident doing other quests.
Fucking Dragon Dance playing as I'm like monk fighting my way through the Ministry of Truth. This quest sucks, by the way. I think they intend for you to come here. This quest, I don't know. By the point you come here, you can just either fight through or sneak through. It's not difficult, but I don't know. Maybe it doesn't need to be.
So I kind of already knew where it was. Inside of Zero.
Yeah. I found the Cavern of the Incarnate by accident. Otherwise, it probably would have been a little fun to find.
It gives you her ring for a whopping 5 personality points, which is one of the most worthless dangers.
Actually, it's 5 personality and 5 speechcraft.
Artifacts of all time. Whereas one of the failed incarnates gives you her dirty panties, which you can use to levitate. So I don't know, man. Maybe Azura Star would have been better or something. Now you're Azura's little PogChamp, you can go back to Nabani for the 4th and 5th trials. These trials are to become Horde.
That's another interesting thing. You can rush Azura Star at any point in the game, but out of all the people who have shrines, I think hers is the only Daedric shrine that doesn't have anyone in it. Which actually means it would make more sense to gatekeep her Daedric quest until you become Nerevarine. Until you get Moon and Star. But you can just go get Moon and Star at any point, and it's better than either of the rings she gives you. Which is really weird. Or, maybe her giving you Azura Star would have been better. But, even then, in lore, a bunch of normal people can get Azura Star, so it's not like it's... Well, I guess not normal people, but other people get Azura Star, so it's not that big a deal. I guess normal people do. That one guy in Skyrim was pretty normal. He's just like some dude you can kill. He's like level 30. What else did I say?
Man. Maybe Azura Star would have been better or something. Now you're Azura's little PogChamp, you can go back to Nabani for the 4th and 5th trials. These trials are to become Hortator of the Great Houses and Nerevarine of the Ashlander tribes. This means 7 whole groups will need to be persuaded to see you as an important figure worthy of the title, which will mean talking to every single counselor of the houses and doing chores for them, or doing...
I failed to mention this, but I also don't think a first-time player would do this. If you are the leader of your great house, you can skip your Hortator quest. So... if you're Telvanni Archmagister, you become Telvanni Hortator just by talking to Arian, I think. Arian, Serethian, I think Curio. I think they all announce you Hortator if you're the house lead.
Fetch quest and escort missions for the tribes. There's no way to mince words here. This is so ass. It makes lore sense and makes the world feel more real, but it slows down the pace of the game and it just straight up is not fun to play. Even if you meet the GOAT, Crash's Curio here. Something really nice about this quest is that if your character is level 20 and has 50 reputation, you can skip these trials and be declared Hortator and Nerevarine directly by Vivek, which fulfills the trials. Either way, Vivek finds...
You can still do the quest, by the way, after that. In case you were curious. I always do the Lalu glitch so that I can become a member of Lalu too. But you can do the quest even if you go to Saryoni. You just have to go talk to the people after you beat the game. It's kind of funny. I don't know if that's on purpose, but that is how it works. But yeah, fucking 50 reputation is like impossible to get without becoming overpowered.
Finally talks to you and gives you Wraithguard to wield Sunder and Keening, the tools of the dwarf tonal architect Kraganak, to destroy the heart of Lurkon and defeat Dagoth-Ur. Vivek allows you to ask about the murder of Nerevar and essentially avoids the question, telling you to go read 2 different accounts on it, which as a testament to how well written this game is, I did on stream. The unreliable narrator is used in this game because it is a game, and so the way you interpret the events of the story are an active decision, which is such a based way to write the game, because this is a video game. I know nowadays video games are cutscenes with QuickTime events, but at the core...
Oversimplification, just for the point of the sentence, but... Yeah, the fact that you can interpret the story in different ways, because it's a game and it's interactive, that storytelling works so much better that way. Obviously, there are certain things that are set in stone. The main story doesn't have branching paths, but the things in lore that you interpret are up to you, which I think is fucking epic. Also, fucking... Vivek with... fucking Dagoth-Ur when he fucking tries to get Sunder and Keening.
It's impossible. Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a bunch of scraps.
Of that video games are the only art form where the art itself changes depending on how you interact with it. So making the story up for interpretation is so fitting. Skipping the trials isn't really relevant.
That's a little weird to say. Obviously, they can only pre-program so many things unless you do procedural generation. Which, like, I don't know, AI novelization might actually make purely interactive stories possible, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, like, the one story you experience can have branching paths in games. Like, New Vegas does this with the ending slideshow, and this game does this with the lore that you interpret, which I think is both very cool.
Since any character at level 20 with 50 reputation is too strong for the main quest anyways. Now that all we have left to do are the 6th and 7th trials, which are to go retrieve the tools...
Fucking hell, did I only have 100 HP at this point?
Anyways. Now that all we have left to do are the 6th and 7th trials, which are to... isn't really...
What is that HP? I can't read that. 34 out of what? 111 HP at fucking level 30.
Irrelevant, since any character at level 20 with 50 reputation...
This character was dog shit.
...for the main quest anyways. Now that all we have left to do are the 6th and 7th trials, which are to go retrieve the tools of Kagrenak and defeat Dagoth, we should go over the power threshold, since we're going to beat the game. Every character in Morrowind hits a point where no enemy in Vardenfell
Very important distinction.
is too strong anymore. Some of the DLC areas are a little weirdly tuned, which I'll talk about later.
Yeah, you don't want to go to the DLCs if you like the fucking lore and setting and all that shit.
Sometimes if you fight multiple high-level enemies at once on higher difficulties, you can get stagger chain due to how the formula for stagger works. But in terms of a fair challenge
I don't think getting staggered because you're fighting 10 enemies and you literally just can't fucking move is fair. You can get staggered by slaughterfish if there's too many. You know, it doesn't mean they're tough enemies. It just means you got haxed. Now, the DLC areas do start intentionally putting waves of enemies at you, so the intention is to stagger you as a challenge. Like in Solstheim, they do this with the Spriggans during like one of the stone quests, which I think is very good. But yeah, sometimes it just feels bullshit. Especially the wolves.
You can get stagger chain due to how the formula for stagger works. But in terms of a fair challenge in terms of damage, enemy placement, skill, there is a point where nothing on the island of Vardenfell will threaten you. Because of the fact that there are 3 levels of progression, damage, accuracy, and gear, all characters start out much weaker than in Oblivion or Skyrim. But by the end, you are significantly stronger than either of those games, and this happens much more quickly too. It's something that is balanced so an inexperienced character who rushes the main quest might be near the threshold on their way to Red Mountain. But anyone who does side quests like the factions or explores a lot in between will have thoroughly surpassed the threshold and will absolutely obliterate Dagoth.
I was so tempted to put in like 4 or 5 footages of people that reached Dagoth and just like 2-shot him. But I was burnt out at this point in editing, but it is fucking ridiculous. Dagoth is fucking nothing. Just to such an extent that it's actually like almost to the point to where I've considered putting in mods to make him harder. Like it's ridiculous. There are multiple enemies in Tribunal and Solstheim that are stronger than Dagoth, and it doesn't make any fucking sense in the lore. Like, the fact that you can beat Dagoth's mortal incarnation while he has the Heart of Lorkhan on his side is... And there are enemies harder than him in the game is fucking stupid. I just jerked off the writing for like 10 minutes, but that's fucking stupid, and I want to emphasize that.
With no difficulty. In a way, this is satisfying to show how far you've come from getting mugged by rats in Balmora to obliterating the 6th house and the tribe unmourned. But it does make the rest of the game really unsatisfying to play afterwards. I think the game is designed to be built in such a way that a character would either do the main quest, or the factions that coincide with their playstyle, like Redoran and Fighter's Guild for a warrior, before ending the character and making a new character.
I could not imagine 100%ing Morrowind. The game is just not designed for that. You hit the power threshold too quickly. I played almost willfully bad on a character, and it only stretched the game out to like 40 or 50 hours. I was able to do the quest lines, but like I didn't explore the world at all in that game. Like, unless I was explicitly told to go somewhere, I didn't go in any dungeons. And that place, like, I didn't have the map like mapped out even like for the overworld. Like, it's insane how much Morrowind there is for how little you can do before you're too powerful for it.
Something that's actually promoted by the fact that new character is in the pause screen of the game. As someone who always hybridizes their builds, this leads to the game being really fun at the mid-game, but becoming very boring later on. And since the difficulty just changes damage numbers, it isn't really the most satisfying answer to this progression issue. With Dagoth-Ur defeated, the world does actually change. The 6 house bases stop respawning, sleepers stop attacking you, civilians who were possessed stop rambling in the streets, and ash storms stop happening in the overworld. You do feel like you saved the world, which is a good feeling. I could go on a rant now about how the story is over, about how much I dislike the DLC here, but seeing as how...
I finished the DLC since I made this video. I did Tribunal and Blood Moon, but I did both with a guide the entire time because the quest lines suck. And the enemies are overtuned. I think the Tribunal's, like, okay once you get past the sewers portion of the quest, but god damn, I don't want to go in those fucking sewers anymore. Blood Moon is alright, but it's a little overtuned. The Werewolf Gauntlet at the end is actually fucking weird. The Werewolf Gauntlet is harder than Hersine. Like, what? They literally... And it's because they put in stronger werewolves in that gauntlet, too. If they had just put in the normal werewolves, it'd be like, okay, that's pretty tough, but if I'm on normal difficulty, I can do this. But fucking hell, man, those werewolves at the end are fucking ridiculous. And the fact that Hersine and Karstag are easier than the werewolves is so fucking weird. Like, literally the reason they're there at the end is because they're stronger than the werewolves in lore. They beat them to get there. Why the fuck is Karstag easier than the werewolves? Like, you feel me, dog? Corrupt businessman is stronger than Dagoth-Ur, Dunmer culture Satan. This is brilliant social commentary by Morrowind. Ugh. I think I say what I want to say in the video in like 5 seconds.
How the DLC is tacked on content that is fully intended to be played after defeating Dagoth-Ur, I don't think it's very necessary to do so. And most of the optional quests in both DLC are available at any level, meaning you can join the East Empire Company and build Raven Rock without beating Dagoth-Ur or touching the Blood Moon main story, which I do like quite a bit.
Yes, East Empire Company is very fun for any character. You just have to be strong enough to like fight Spriggans, I think, and you can do the quest line. It's fine. Yeah, but I would recommend most people to do the East Empire Company, even if you don't plan on doing the Blood Moon main quest for a character.
If you guys like the DLC, tell me why in the comments. I tried multiple times to do both and could not get into either DLC since they just felt like busy work. There's also this really weird scaling issue where like every enemy in the DLCs are like tuned to be characters that are difficult for like a character that has beaten Dagoth-Ur to fight. So in terms of progression, it's definitely meant to be main story, Tribunal, Blood Moon, but no matter how you try to justify it, it feels so bad to go from beating Dagoth-Ur to like getting mugged by bears in Solstheim and actually dying, or goblins in the sewers of Tribunal. There's no way to actually make that feel good, I don't think. And I think that's why the scaling system exists in the next 2 games, which is actually rather unfortunate. So
yeah, it feels awful. Literally all they have to do is just make Dagoth-Ur like as strong as the DLC characters, I think. And like the Ash Vampires and like maybe the Ascended Sleepers. Make them as strong as like DLC characters, and that's good. Like Morrowind, the baseline island of Vardenfell does not ever need you to reach godhood to beat it. But if you're not god level in the DLC, you just get fucked. It's so bizarre. It feels really weird. Because, like, sure, I get it, right? I'm a player. I'm playing Tribunal after the main story, but fucking going from, like, whooping Dagoth-Ur's ass to, like, getting mugged by goblins is, like, one of the worst feelings on the planet. I can't really fully explain it either. It's just, like, a primordial feeling inside of my heart that just, like, hurts.
Is Morrowind worth playing in 2024? I have to say no. All of the things I commented on are overwhelmingly worse to...
I love that I do this, by the way.
I have to say no. All of...
I love that I moved the text edit to be in the corner of the like 4:3 movie ratio. It's like in Dragon Ball, previous villain is shit compared to next big bad. That's fine in Dragon Ball. There's a reason Frieza's stronger than Vegeta and Cell's stronger than Frieza and Boo's stronger than Cell. Why the fuck are goblins stronger than Dagoth-Ur? Her scene's fine. You know, he's a Daedric prince. But Alma Alexia's fine. You know, she's the last tribunal at that point in time. But why the fuck are like goblins and bears stronger than Dagoth Ur? Why the fuck is Carnius stronger than Dagoth Ur? It doesn't make any sense.
Some of the things I commented on are overwhelmingly worse to experience yourself, and the slow movement speed in early game in general are horrible if you're new to the game. Add on top of this that I played the game in OpenMW, which is notably more stable than vanilla, and you'd be experiencing random crashes and bugs on top of the slow movement. You would be constantly retracing slow, tedious steps. I had a constant discussion where people would ask me...
Okay, actually, to further back myself up a little bit, because I'll get a comment about this for sure on this video, right? The fact that the DLCs feel bad is a testament to the fact that the main island of Vardenfell does an excellent job with the power scaling and writing of the lore. Dagoth Ur... Imagine Jesus returning and beating Jeff with like, Satan effortlessly, but he has problems with Jeff Bezos. I can't say it any better than that, man. The game does an excellent job to explain why the Ash Vampires and Dagoth Ur are so powerful in comparison to everything else on the island of Vardenfell. There's reasons why they're so much stronger than everything else, and there's also reasons why everything else is at the level they're at. The game makes sense in the way that it layers out the enemy placement and the story, and then it just throws that out for Tribunal and Blood Moon. If it had, like, Skyrim fucking scaling, it'd be like, okay, sure, I get it. You know, Dragonborn is just higher in levels, but Morrowind actually does a good job of establishing the setting and the, like, power scale and, like, the lore and all that. So when it just throws that out, it feels worse than in a game like Oblivion or Skyrim where that stuff wasn't too present to begin with. If that makes sense. That's why I think people give Dragonborn and Shivering Isles less slack. Like, yeah, they're harder than the base area, but they don't care because it's not like the base area was, like, meticulously designed. Morrowind is, so when they just throw that tough shit on top of it, it feels awful.
On stream if I thought the game was worth getting into.
TLDR, the DLC is bad because the base game is really good.
And I had to say no, because I did not start enjoying my time with the game until about 10 hours in, which is completely asinine to ask of anyone. 10 hours is enough to watch the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, all seasons of Mob Psycho 100, a season of The Boys, play Sonic Mania, play a Ratchet & Clank game, read an arc of a fast-paced manga like Chainsaw Man or Jujutsu Kaisen, practice a skill, practice a hobby.
Hello, everybody.
I did find a wonder inside of Morrowind, but I forced myself through those 10 hours on stream and would never have done that on my own time.
Couldn't, yeah, I said it perfectly. The point of this video is Morrowind worth playing in 2025? If you are a Morrowind fan, you already know the answer. So who is this video for? It's for normal people. Morrowind fans are not normal people. I can try to dress that up however I want, but there's no way around it. You're not a normal person if you're fucking playing Morrowind in the current year. This video is asking if normal people should dip their toes in. And I don't think normal people would enjoy vanilla Morrowind at all.
However, there is one reason I would recommend Morrowind to anyone with a PC they can play games on. Mods. Well, I do certainly think the base product needs to be taken into account.
I can confirm I am not normal. I'm not normal either, man. This is Tamriel Rebuilt. I should have specified that in the video. But the footage is from Warlocracy's Tamriel Rebuilt showcase. It looks amazing.
Hell, which is why the first run I did of Morrowind, roughly 20 hours, was almost completely vanilla besides OpenMW. Because of that, I think Morrowind out of the box does not hold up, and that the good aspects of the game are overpowered by the bad ones. With mods, however, we can draw out that purely good energy and end up...
I'm also including things like the stability of Open Morrowind as a mod, because completely vanilla Steam Morrowind crashes constantly like New Vegas. Not as bad, but still it crashes and it's really unstable. There's tons of shit that's just fixed by like the Morrowind code patch in OpenMW. Even outside of like major game design changes, just things are more stable.
Up with something incredible. I complained about the movement speed, but with mods I can add in the Pants of Binding Speed and use console commands for potions of magicka resistance in nickisaneet.
Here we go!
You're good. Yeah. Let's go.
Meaning, aside from Crashius Curio ogling our thighs, we can be fast the entire game.
There's a quest where he makes you strip down naked. It's a literal fucking Me Too moment. God, Crashius is a goat. He does it whether you're a guy or a girl, by the way. I think normal people can enjoy modded Morrowind if they're willing to take the effort. That's also a takeaway Patrician had. He said that he can play completely vanilla Morrowind, even if he doesn't like it as much as modded, but that normal people can definitely like it if it's modded, which I agree with.
Meaning, aside from Crashius Curio ogling our thighs, we can be fast the entire game. Fatigue draining from running is kind of poorly implemented, so I can just remove that. Magicka not regenerating when you wait slows down the pace of areas like Vivek, so I added in fair Magicka regeneration.
The way that mod works is if your willpower is over 50, you get very, very slow Magicka regen, less than 1 a second. So essentially it means that you can wait anywhere for a day and get your Magicka back. Which I actually, because I have that mod enabled, I've actually disabled resting anywhere. Because it creates this really interesting scenario where if you want to rest to get your Magicka and health back, you need your willpower and endurance over 50 respectively. So if you can't rest anywhere, then you can only wait, which means that you have to actually get your stats up to use it. Which means investing when you make your character or investing in the early levels. Which I think is very interesting. It's really cool. That's a mod I've started using.
No hit chance percentage on weapons is frustrating, so I added a hit chance UI that tells me what percent chance to hit is. Now when I know I only have 40% chance to hit, I get less mad and go make a priority to train my weapon skills. I do think there is a value to the base release of games being a certain quality, considering Morrowind became relevant recently because of how mid Starfield was, which was on purpose as they expected people to mod the game for them. On the flip side is New Vegas, my favorite game of all time that I played for over a decade on the Xbox 360, completely vanilla, crashes and all. New Vegas is an incredible game that can be modded. Starfield is a husk that needs to be modded. Morrowind does have an inherent beauty to it, but fighting the game itself to enjoy Morrowind is necessary if it isn't modded. I think there is an argument to be made Morrowind isn't supposed to be fun, which if you take this opinion, makes the bad parts good parts and adds to the experience of the game as more of an art piece, as how horrible certain aspects are, to highlight how miserable and terrible being the Nerevarine would be.
Yeah, I think genuinely if you view it that way, the main game is a masterpiece, even with all its problems. But I don't think most people would take the stance that Morrowind isn't supposed to be fun.
Sort of like Majora's Mask being frustrating and tedious on the first time add to the anxiety and stress of that game.
That's not a dig at Majora's Mask. I struggled with the controls because a lot of the mask movement is janky. And all the menu shit and keeping track of all the events is like stressful. And like that's the point. That game is supposed to be fucking weird and stressful and anxiety inducing.
If Morrowind is meant to be stress inducing and frustrating, the unmodded experience is a true piece of art. However, if it is supposed to be a fun game, the modded experience is just as, if not more, incredible. And I think modding is fair. I've gone back and forth a few times on how I feel about it, but I sort of had an epiphany. Ocarina of Time, one of the biggest games of history, released on like 4 different consoles. And
Feed him a
remastered on the
fish?
3DS, just flat out does not have anywhere near the number of mods that any Bethesda game, new or old, does. The mods are not official, but the accessibility offered in modding is more officially available for this game than other franchises, which I do think makes modding something uniquely powerful.
You know, I don't enjoy visual modding just because I like to leave games where they are, and I like the way Morrowind looks, but like, god damn, look at that tavern.
Other franchises, which I do think makes modding something uniquely powerful to Bethesda games. So is Morrowind worth playing in 2024? Yeah.
Yeah, that's my ultimate takeaway. I think even normal people would appreciate modded Morrowind. I just don't think that you should pick the game up and just try to play it out of the box. I think you'll have a terrible time if you do that. And that's the point. Normal people, I think it is still worth playing in 2025. The thumbnail is pure clickbait. You know, I'll admit that, because I want this video to succeed. If I just put yeah on there, then everyone's going to be like, okay, I know what the point of the video is. But yeah, even at the very end, I think yes. I think it is.
Oh god, my throat is destroyed. Thank you for 500 subscribers! Let's go! I got channel memberships because of that, so please join if you want to, as it'll let you get videos early, and I'll even post my scripts as I write them to get feedback. And if I get enough people on the second level, I'll post member-only polls to decide what videos I make, when I don't have something set in stone, or shorts, or what have you. If you really like this video, check out these videos made by people on Morrowind, as out of all the videos I've seen,
if you made it this far in this video, absolutely check these guys out. I Need Waffles Tabernacle video is literally my favorite video on Morrowind of all time. I adore Waffle Tabernacle's videos. I think it's a he. He said he hates being a guy. That's one of his videos. Yeah, he has amazing videos. He has one on Morrowind. He has one on Oblivion versus Skyrim, which you should honestly just watch that one, then Morrowind as like a trilogy. His 2000s video is so good. And his One Piece video is epic too. Owen Kong's is more of a guide. Strat Edgy's is more of a guide. Mortismal is kind of more of just a pure review, not as much comedy as these three, but it's much more thorough as a review than these are. And then I would say Patrician TV's is like the ultimate Morrowind retrospective, but it's like 7 hours long. So if you only have like an hour or two, check these out. There's a few other videos on Morrowind out there, but I didn't think that they were as like foundational to the discussion on Morrowind as these are, or as useful as like the strategy one is. So I want to go over comments, because I just reviewed my own video, and I pointed out where I was wrong, where I was lazy in the editing, where I got something wrong, and where my opinions have changed. However, the reason that I posted this video, despite my opinions changing, is because the video purpose works. Is Morrowind worth playing in 2025? This video addresses that. Nothing I can say now would change something for a new player. Everything I just was like, well, actually, to myself for, it only matters in discussing the quality of the game past like an initial experience, right? But like for new players, this video is good enough. This video works. The video is also funny, so it has replay value just for myself. So I want to go through the comments and see if they're like me and they can kind of look at the video critically, or if they're just butthurt. Without mods, probably not, but with mods, most definitely. Playing Morrowind and Dark Souls Remastered recently have made me question if Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be as hollow as Skyrim. Hopefully we don't see a continuation of the keep it simple, stupid philosophy, because no one cared about any of Skyrim's bosses, whereas Tribunal gets so much love from the community. Let me get some music going now that we're looking at reviews. How about... yeah, we'll heart and react to that. I don't. What thoughts do I have on this? I think Harkon and Mirak. Is it Two Eyes Mirak and Alduin? All have potential, but Skyrim wasn't very interested. In exploring that. I don't think Test 6 will be a return to form, and I think that's for the best. Short answer, yes. Long answer, yes. Very epic. Morrowind is good. Yes. Epic. Morrowind is good. Get ratioed. 5 likes on that. 18 likes on here. We'll say 5 out of 18. Call that my chance to cast. Hot take. I think Morrowind combat is better than Oblivion and Skyrim, and I'm tired of pretending it isn't. Oblivion and Skyrim have same classic Bethesda standard turn into enemy and match attack combat as Morrowind, but without even having the RPG systems that made it at least somewhat interesting. This is less because I think Morrowind has a well-designed RPG combat, and more because Oblivion and Skyrim are just really bad in that regard. Morrowind is essentially a CRPG where you directly inhabit your character with all the CRPG staples like RNG attacks and spells. I would prefer that they committed to either a tactical CRPG angle or an actually well-conceived action RPG system. But I've had to pick from the slop Bethesda has called combat in their game over the years. I prefer the mechanics of Morrowind to subsequent games. I agree that running using fatigue is just stupid and annoying. My solution was to just stop and wait an hour before going into new dungeons. So I'd be going in at full stamina. I feel like the game should at least tell you that having no fatigue makes it basically impossible to hit anything. I'm like 90% sure this is where a lot of the complaints come from, because a level 1 character isn't actually that inaccurate provided you have high fatigue. Spit, King. I think improving on Morrowind would also be better than Oblivion or Skyrim. The other part of the complaints about low hit rate come from while having no fatigue using the starting Iron Dagger without any skill in Short Blade. Yeah, but this is why I like Elder Scrolls modding community. The mods really saved Morrowind for me, because I actually care about the characters, unlike in Skyrim. I'm just thinking about a comparison between Vivek and Ulfric. He literally... He gets it! He fucking gets it! He did the same comparison I did! The fact that you can just walk up and kill Vivek, but you can't kill Ulfric. I played 300 hours this month. 100% worth the game. Same. I feel so empty. That's a little mean. I think that would come off as mean. I'm just gonna say same. I really feel you don't understand the fatigue in combat systems, honestly even role-playing games in general. It's supposed to be a challenge early on, your character is nobody. Morrowind is an actual RPG in which your character is supposed to have defined strengths and weaknesses, and the RNG elements are supposed to resemble tabletop role-playing, in which dice rolls impact almost every action you take. The piece on the Nerevarine, it is not a meta-commentary about you, the player. Yes, I read the speech bubble. Holy crap, you don't understand the writing of this game. Can't believe it lasted 37 minutes turning this off now. Comment for, algorithm cheers. So see, he doesn't actually explain why I don't understand it, or role-playing games. He just says you don't. He didn't provide a counter-argument like I did when I reacted to my own video. He didn't give a better option. He's just saying this shit to be mean. I'm just gonna say you haven't really explained why. So I can't do anything. Thank you for the comment. I fully agree with this comment entirely. He doesn't seem to understand the core concept of the storytelling. It's not meta. What he describes as a story being shown as a meta narrative is just character progression in the game. Azura isn't talking about you. Now, this is something I went over in mine. Like, I put it a little too strongly as that being what it's supposed to be, when that's like a personal takeaway I had. So I would agree with this. He actually gave a reason, so I would agree now. I put that forward as the direct interpretation. When Dagoth Ur's question is asking whether you are Nerevar or not. I would agree now. I put that forward as the direct interpretation when Dagoth Ur's question is asking whether you are Nerevar himself or not. I loved how you were literally a nobody at the start and really had to think about what you were doing. My friend stared at me in disbelief when I told you to effectively walk up levels and you couldn't believe it. I'm fine with starting off weak, but Morrowind is a bit strong. Is a bit much in that department. I'm fine with starting off League, but Morrowind is a bit much in that department. The difference in a level 1 Oblivion versus level 100 in speed, for example, starts better and also progresses well. You need better mic, my man. I'm not your man, brah. I do need a better mic, though. TBH, weapons and Morrowind make me a bit mad because, dude, you can't tell me I missed when the sword physically touched the guy. Oh, you missed. My sword, it's physically inside the guy. How did I miss? Attacking for the idea of doing damage. Plankton sandwich. Yeah, it's tough because of the roll of hit system game uses. It looks janky because they went with real-time models and animation, but they have the underlying system be an RNG check, yeah. So that's another case. If you just added a dodge animation, all of those complaints go away, right? I need to turn that down. Use a weapon you have high skills in, at least 40. I agree. But these people are saying the feedback is bad. Example being a dodge animation would improve it. Would make more people buy the RNG roll. I loved this game when it was new and played all the way to the ending at least 3 times, but over the years I keep trying to go back and just can't do it, and none of the mods make it fun. It needs a complete remake, and given how Bethesda Softworks is today, I would not want such a remake. Not right now. I'd rather they let adult quality dev take it over and do it properly. A true sequel instead of a remake for me. It's rough for sure, but still playable. I just played Legacy of Kain. Wow, that was clunky and though worth it once you go 10 hours, okay? It's unrelated. Doesn't need a remake. Only played vanilla for years and it's clear the new installments easily. Fan-made content such as Tamriel is plenty. One day, I'll play those and have even more decades unlocked. It's a decent point. Skywind. Yeah, Skywind. Taunt. Yeah, this is the taunt explanation. Thanks, bestie. I mentioned you in stream. Alright. So that's everything for this video. The reason I went ahead and streamed today is... So the reason I went over the comments and streamed today is because, first of all, I want this video to succeed. This video plateaued in views yesterday. It started the day at 1,000 and went to like 1,060, so it's clear it's plateaued. I can't blame anyone for that. I haven't uploaded in months, so that's on me. But, I wanted to go over this, try and keep the video alive a little bit longer. Genuinely, I wanted to discuss my own video because my opinions changed, like you saw in the video. Because I made this when I was about 100 hours in, and I'm now 200 to 300 hours in. I've been playing this game like a fucking mad lad. It's genuinely amazing. I don't want anyone to ever get that twisted. I said, yeah, it's worth playing. And yeah, I wanted to go over the comments because they weren't, some of them were constructive and some of them weren't. If you're gonna, you know, criticize someone, tell why. When I went over my own video, I give counterpoints and stuff, you know, those people didn't do that. And you are talking to a person. This isn't Game Grumps where like I'm some fucking person who records something, someone else edits it, someone else uploads it, and someone else tweets about it. Like, I did all this shit. And also, by the way, I was live for like the past 3 days for 12 hours a day. Look at this shit. So yeah, if you wanted to come at me You had your chance. You had your time of day. You could have done it. So, they just don't want to. They just want to be assholes. Anyways, I have had fun with the stream. I think I'm going to come back and stream some Morrowind in a little bit just for fun. But as far as, like, constructive stream stuff, that's it for this.